Chapter 1499. There were all kinds of treasures. Moronu glanced at them and found that there were all kinds of sacred weapons, magic treasures, and other treasures of heaven and earth. Moronu was overjoyed. Ignoring the true dragon's corpse, he took a step forward and arrived in front of the sparkling treasures. However, he soon shook his head. Although there were many sacred weapons and magic treasures among these treasures, their levels were too low. At most, they were at the level of high-grade sacred weapons. Moreover, compared to the large pile of treasures, there were very few useful treasures. This was because Moronu saw that most of the shiny things were useless. There were a lot of useless things like luminous pearls. No matter how powerful the true dragon was, the dragon clan could not change their greedy nature. Moreover, all dragons like shiny things. That was why Moronu was now in front of him. With a thought, Moronu put the sacred weapons, magic treasures, and useful treasures of heaven and earth into the Hichuluo shoe. As for the shiny and useless things, Moronu did not even look at them. These things were good for admiring, but Moronu did not have the leisure to admire them. If he had the leisure, he would rather cultivate seriously and improve his strength. One must know that he was now the enemy of the whole world. After collecting the useful treasures, Moronu came in front of the true dragon. The true dragon had been dead for who knows how many years, but it still maintained a lifelike appearance. Although it still looked alive, the power in its body had dissipated. However, there was still a lot of power in the true dragon's body and bones. Moronu estimated that the true dragon in front of him should be between the undead realm and the undead realm when it was alive. This was because only when it reached the undead realm or was stronger, the true dragon's body could be preserved forever. Otherwise, it would have been turned into dust by the erosion of time. The true dragon's body was full of treasures. There was no reason for Moronu to let him go. Thus, he reached out with his hand and grabbed the true dragon's corpse that was 100,000 kilometers long. In fact, just the length of the true dragon's body was enough to distinguish the true dragon's realm. For example, if the true dragon in front of Moronu was 100,000 miles long, then it would be at the undead realm. A true dragon of the saint realm was only 10,000 miles long. On the other hand, the true form of a great saint stage true dragon was 50,000 miles long, and the true body of an imperishable stage true dragon was 200,000 miles long. It could be said to be extremely long. It was very visually stunning. Roar! Just as Moronu's big hand was about to touch the undead true dragon's corpse, an incomparably loud dragon roar suddenly erupted from the true dragon's corpse. Like a surging torrent, it bombarded the unprepared Moronu. Rumble! Moronu's body felt like it was being crushed by a sacred mountain. The huge force pressed Moronu's feet deep into the ground. However, although this force was huge, Moronu's body was also extremely strong. This level of force couldn't hurt his body at all. It only managed to press his feet into the ground. However, just as Moronu reacted and was about to shake off this force from his body, something strange happened. Boom! An incomparably powerful soul power instantly swept through his body and blasted into his soul space. Then, it violently strangled his soul. Soul attack! Moronu was shocked, but he didn't lose his composure. With a shift of his mind, the soul pool that was tens of thousands of miles long violently shook. Terrifying soul power gushed out and quickly strangled the soul power that had blasted into his soul space. Although the sudden appearance of the soul power caught Moronu off guard, it was still too weak compared to Moronu's 3-star soul. In an instant, the soul power that had blasted into Moronu's soul space was crushed by Moronu's soul space. Get out of here! Just as Moronu crushed the soul power, a thunderous voice suddenly sounded in the soul space. Moronu's ears were buzzing. At the same time, Moronu saw a flash of light in front of him. A ray of light shot out from the corpse of the real dragon not far in front of him and stood proudly between heaven and earth. This was a miniature real dragon. Not only was it very small compared to the corpse of the real dragon, but it was also very small compared to Moronu's body that wasn't very tall. It was about the size of Moronu's head. This was a real dragon that was only the size of a head. However, even though this true dragon was small, it continued to emit a tyrannical and brutal aura. At this moment, this miniature real dragon was glaring at Murongyu with a face full of anger. It wanted nothing more than to slap Murongyu to death. However, perhaps it was because Murongyu had easily destroyed its soul attack, but the pocket-sized true dragon seemed a little hesitant. This is a soul-body real dragon. Looking at this real dragon, Murongyu's eyes shone with a dazzling light. A soul body was equivalent to the undead that Murongyu had encountered before. In fact, the real dragon soul body in front of Murongyu was also an undead. This was because this soul body only had violence and brutality. It had no nature. It was no longer a real dragon soul. Instead, after the real dragon died, its remaining soul body was nourished by resentment and formed a new life form. This kind of soul body was a great supplement for a soul saint like Murongyu. Of course, the premise was that Murongyu could suppress and refine this real dragon soul body. This is the dragon graveyard. Who knows how many real dragon corpses are buried here? If all these corpses can produce this kind of soul body, then I'll be rich. Thinking about this, Murongyu could not help but become excited. Seeing Murongyu's eyes glowing and looking at it with excitement, it did not respond. However, he was indifferent to its words. The true dragon's spiritual body was immediately enraged. In its anger, it immediately attacked. Suddenly, a vast torrent of power tore through the void and surged toward Murongyu, wanting to kill Murongyu in one fell swoop. Trying to show off in front of an expert? Showing off your sleight skill before an expert. Seeing this, Murongyu sneered. An even more powerful soul strength was released. Pooh! Pooh! The soul strength of the real dragon's soul body could not withstand a single blow and was directly blasted into smithereens by Murongyu. At the same time, Murongyu's soul strength condensed into a large hand and grabbed at the real dragon's soul body. The real dragon's soul body was enraged. It roared and waves of soul strength were released continuously. It wanted to block Murongyu's grab. However, what shocked it was that its soul strength was like an ant trying to shake a tree or a mantis trying to stop a chariot. It could not kill Murongyu at all. Seeing that the situation was not good, the real dragon's soul body screamed and turned to escape. However, how could Murongyu let such a great supplement escape? The large hand grabbed and directly caught the real dragon's soul body. Then, under the intense resistance of the real dragon's soul body, it was directly kept in the soul space. Human, how dare you enter the dragon graveyard to steal the real dragon's corpse? You're dead meat. The real dragon's soul body suddenly cursed. Murongyu sneered and threw the real dragon's soul body into his soul pool. Then, the soul strength that was like a stormy sea instantly annihilated the real dragon's soul body. It was then torn into millions of pieces and quickly refined. Walala, after refining the real dragon's soul body, Murongyu's soul pool, which was originally not full due to the expansion of his soul pool, increased by 1% as if a large amount of soul strength had been injected into it. This was because the real dragon's soul body that Murongyu had refined was not strong enough. Otherwise, his soul strength would have increased even more. Although these soul bodies are very violent, I have to get rid of the violent aura when refining them. However, if I can refine a large number of these soul bodies, my soul strength might be able to reach the 4-star level. As Murongyu thought to himself, he reached out his hand and put the real dragon into the book A Massacre. Then, he took a step forward and disappeared from the spot. After appearing in the dragon graveyard, Murongyu decided to go all the way and entered the second dragon graveyard. This time, Murongyu encountered a real dragon's corpse that was 200,000 miles long. It was at the imperishable stage when it was alive. However, to Murongyu's disappointment, although this real dragon had many treasures, he did not encounter a real dragon with a soul body. Then, Murongyu entered a few more dragon graveyards. Some of them did not have a soul body, while others did. This also made Murongyu understand that not every dead real dragon would have a soul body. He guessed that the real dragons that had a soul body must have died very unwillingly. Therefore, after they died, they gathered a large amount of resentment. In this way, they would form a soul body. However, the dragon clan had always been very mysterious and rarely moved around the saint's world. How did these real dragons die? Could it be that they were killed by their own people because of internal strife? Or were these dragon clan powerhouses that died in the immemorial age? However, these thoughts only lingered in Murong Yu's mind for a while before he shook his head and waved them away. It was not up to him to care how these real dragons died. His current goal was to collect the real dragons' corpses, their treasures, and the soul bodies formed by resentment. In the following time, Murong Yu continued to wander around the dragon graveyards. He collected more and more real dragons' corpses and various treasures, and his soul pool was finally filled. On this day, Murong Yu entered a dragon graveyard that was 100 times larger than any dragon graveyard he had entered before. Chapter 1500. A real dragon corpse that was 1.5 million miles long. Murong Yu was stunned when he saw such a long, real dragon corpse. During this period of time, he had been constantly lingering in the dragon graveyard and collected many true dragon corpses. However, the longest real dragon corpse he had seen was only 800,000 miles long. That was a real dragon of the ancient sage level. And now, this true dragon had actually reached a length of 1.5 million miles. What did that mean? A real dragon of the king's sage level. Murong Yu narrowed his eyes as he felt the immense dragon aura coming from the real dragon corpse. His eyes shone brightly. Although the real dragon corpse had shocked him, the more powerful the real dragon was when it was alive, the more powerful its body would be after it died. It would be more useful to Murong Yu. Therefore, Murong Yu collected the treasure that was buried with the real dragon without any hesitation. Then, he reached out his hand to grab the real dragon corpse. Roar! At this moment, a furious roar was heard. Then, Murong Yu experienced the same thing that happened when he entered the first real dragon graveyard. First, he was suppressed. Then, there was a soul attack. However, the first soul attack was nothing compared to this one. Poof! Poof! Murong Yu's hastily responded soul strength was instantly shattered by the torrential soul attack the moment it came into contact with the soul strength. Furthermore, after Murong Yu's spiritual energy was shattered, his opponent's spiritual attack became even more berserk. In the blink of an eye, the spiritual attack had already charged into Murong Yu's spiritual space and rapidly pounced towards him. Murong Yu was startled. The soul that had attacked him had already reached the level of a 3-star soul. It was precisely because of this that it was able to easily annihilate Murong Yu's hastily blocked soul strength. However, Murong Yu did not care about a 3-star soul body. Although Murong Yu's soul body was only at the second firmament of a 3-star soul body, Murong Yu was confident. At this moment, Murong Yu reacted. In the blink of an eye, he retreated a few steps. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Murong Yu's soul pool went completely berserk. Violent soul power violently attacked and collided with the opponent's soul attack in his soul space. The first time was a hasty battle, and Murong Yu's soul power was instantly shattered. The second time, Murong Yu fought with all his might. However, although his soul force was not destroyed, he was unable to immediately crush or expel the soul force that had invaded his soul space. At the same time, a soul body true dragon that was several times larger than Murong Yu appeared in the void in front of Murong Yu. He looked at Murong Yu with a ferocious and tyrannical expression. "Lowly human, how dare you have designs on my body? You really deserve to die. Kill him." The soul body true dragon roared. Waves of soul power erupted like stormy waves, trying to crush Murong Yu's attack. Murong Yu sneered, "You're just a soul body. What do you do to me? Not only your body, but you will also be refined by me to strengthen my soul cultivation." As he spoke, Murong Yu's soul pool went completely berserk. Boom, boom, boom. The battle between soul bodies was not as splendid as an ordinary battle, and there were not as many grand scenes. However, it was more thrilling than an ordinary battle. This was because if one was not careful, one's soul could be annihilated. Their soul powers were similar. After a round of battle, Moronyu had calmed down a lot. However, the soul-body true dragon could not remain calm. This was because he realized that Muronyu's soul pool was too big. If this continued, he would be completely consumed, and Moronyu would kill him easily. How can this little bastard's soul pool be so big? The more anxious the soul-body true dragon was, the more violent and violent he became. His attacks became more and more terrifying. However, Moronyu was relaxed and satisfied. The longer the battle, the more soul-body true dragon soul power will be consumed, and the less benefit I will get after refining. I have to end this battle as soon as possible. Moronyu began to think. Immediately, half of Moronyu's soul power was separated and rushed out of his soul space to attack the soul-body true dragon. Soul Punch, Soul Slash, Heavenly Annihilation. As soon as he attacked, he used 3 upgraded soul combat skills to kill his soul-body true dragon. At this moment, the soul-body true dragon was suddenly enveloped by a strong aura of death. While he was shocked, the soul power in his body immediately surged and burst out. Boom, boom, boom. Almost at the same time, the 3 attacks landed on the soul-body true dragon. Immediately, the soul-body true dragon let out a miserable cry. At the same time, he was sent flying. During this process, the soul strength he used to attack Moronyu had naturally weakened, allowing Moronyu to easily destroy it. Ha! Sure enough, offense is the best defense. Moronyu laughed heartily. He took a step forward and sent 3 more soul attacks at Nyeli. Previously, Moronyu had been passively defending, which was why he was confronting the soul-body true dragon. However, once he attacked, the soul-body true dragon was no match for Moronyu. This was because Moronyu's soul combat skills could increase the soul-body true dragon's soul power attack by several times. Boom, boom, boom. Moronyu attacked violently, bombarding the spiritual dragon with battle techniques one after another, causing it to throw away its armor and flee. It was no longer in human form. In the end, Moronyu unleashed all his strength and suppressed the soul-body true dragon. Suppress, devour, refine. After suppressing the soul-body true dragon, Moronyu regained some of his strength and refined the soul-body true dragon. Rumble. It was indeed a 3-star soul-body true dragon. After Moronyu completely refined and devoured the soul-body true dragon, his soul-body true dragon that had reached the peak of the 2nd heaven of the 3-star soul-body true dragon finally had a breakthrough. 3rd heaven of the 3-star soul-body true dragon. After the breakthrough, the biggest change was Moronyu's soul pond. Originally, when he was at the 2nd heaven of the 3-star soul-body true dragon, Moronyu's soul pond had a radius of 40,000 miles. But now, Moronyu's soul pond was expanding at a speed visible to the naked eye. From 40,000 miles to 50,000 miles, 60,000 miles. In the end, Moronyu's soul pond stopped expanding when it reached 80,000 miles. Because of the breakthrough, his soul strength naturally filled up the entire soul pond. 3-star soul-body true dragon. A soul pond with a radius of 80,000 miles. One had to know that an ordinary soul sage's soul pond could only reach 80,000 miles after reaching the 8th heaven of the 3-star soul-body true dragon. Moronyu had already reached such a terrifying level when he was only at the 3rd heaven of the 3-star soul-body true dragon. In other words, Moronyu's soul strength was equivalent to a soul sage at the 8th heaven of the 3-star soul realm. An ordinary soul pond of the 3rd heaven of the 3-star soul realm was only 12,000 miles in size. Moronyu's soul strength was 8 times that of a soul sage of the same realm. Similarly, his soul attack was at least 8 times that of a soul sage of the same realm. In addition to various combat skills, it was more than 10 times. After the breakthrough, Moronyu consolidated his cultivation and kept the true dragon's corpse that was 1.5 million miles long. Moreover, Moronyu did not stop. He continued to wander around the true dragon's graveyard. At this time, The dragon's graveyard that no one had entered usually welcomed a few Dragon Clan powerhouses. It's best to use a true dragon soul body to cultivate your soul body. However, you have to refine the resentment. Otherwise, not only will your cultivation be affected, over time, your temperament will also be affected, and you will become a cruel and violent person. A Dragon Clan elder who looked similar to an ordinary person slowly said to a young man beside him. Looking at the elder's attire, he seemed to be his servant. However, the young man had a disdainful expression, and a sense of arrogance exuded from within. He should be a young talent from some large family of the Dragon Clan. Otherwise, they would not be qualified to enter the dragon's graveyard. One had to know that many seniors of the Dragon Clan were buried here. Under normal circumstances, even the Dragon Clan was not allowed to set foot here. These soul bodies were born from the resentment of our seniors. They are no longer our seniors of the Dragon Clan. Therefore, once you encounter these soul bodies, you don't have to be lenient. Just kill them directly. The soul slowly glanced at the other true dragon powerhouses beside him and said indifferently. Seeing that the few of them nodded, the young man looked at the elder who spoke earlier. Is there really a soul body with a 3-star soul body in the grave of the deceased holy King Senior? The elder nodded. We've already investigated it. There is indeed a true dragon with a 3-star soul body there. The young man was overjoyed. If I can devour this soul body true dragon, I will definitely be able to break through to 3-star soul body. This time, I must raise my soul body to 4-star before leaving. As they spoke, they had already entered deep into the dragon's graveyard. They arrived in front of a dragon's graveyard. Then, they directly entered the graveyard. However, as far as the eye could see, there was only a huge space and some shiny, worthless things. There was no true dragon's corpse or soul body true dragon. What's going on? The few of them were shocked and did not react for a moment. The true dragon's corpse has been stolen. Soon, the elder reacted. He shouted coldly with a gloomy face. At the same time, he reached out his hand and grabbed the air. In the next moment, an extremely clear image appeared in front of them. It was the scene of Murong-Yu fighting with the 3-star soul body and collecting the true dragon's corpse. Bastard, who is this person? Not only did he collect the soul body, but he also stole the true dragon's corpse. This is unforgivable. The young man roared furiously. These true dragon's corpses were their ancestors. Anyone who saw their ancestors' corpses being stolen would be incomparably furious. Chapter 1501. In their anger, these Dragon Clan powerhouses checked on the true dragons nearby. This was not a big deal because the corpses and treasures of the true dragon's tomb that they had checked had all been stolen. They were already furious, but now they were even more furious. If this was not the tomb of their ancestors and the forbidden land of the Dragon Clan, their anger would have been enough to destroy this world. Who is it? Who is so audacious to steal the true dragon's corpse? Several Dragon Clan members all roared. Although they had seen Murong-Yu's image, it was only an image. This was because these images only showed Murong-Yu's appearance and could not show Murong-Yu's aura. Under normal circumstances, the powerhouses of the Dragon Clan existed in the form of humans. Therefore, when they saw Murong-Yu's image, they only thought that Murong-Yu was also a member of the Dragon Clan. They did not think that Murong-Yu was not a member of the Dragon Clan, but a real human. Moreover, he was a human who had ascended from the lower realm. Moreover, the Dragon Clan's world was not in the same space as the Holy World. Although it was also in the Holy World, it was an independent space. Moreover, there were only a few entrances and exits, which were all firmly sealed by the Dragon Clan powerhouses with restrictions and formations. There were also true dragon powerhouses guarding it, so others could not enter at all. No one even knew of the existence of the Dragon Clan's entrance. If one wanted to enter the Dragon Clan's world, they would have to be invited by the Dragon Clan. Who is this bastard? How dare he be so disrespectful? The group of people were furious and wanted nothing more than to slap Murong-Yu to death. First, find out which clan this bastard is from and kill this bastard. You guys search around and see if this bastard is still here. I will go out and ask the guards of the Forbidden Land. The young man angrily ordered his followers. Then he soared into the sky and flew towards the entrance of the tomb. This is the forbidden land of the entire dragon clan. Ordinary people can't enter at all. Moreover, only a few of you have entered in the past tens of thousands of years. When asked if anyone had entered the secret area of the dragon clan, the true dragon powerhouses guarding the forbidden area immediately replied, "Are we really the only ones who have entered over the past several tens of thousands of years?" Long Shengjia's face sank as he looked at the true dragon experts in doubt. It was obvious that the true dragon's corpse had been stolen not long ago, but these people said that no one had entered. Wasn't this clearly a blatant lie? If it was another place, Long Shengjia might have thought that Murong Yu had sneaked in from another place. However, this was the graveyard of the dragon race. The entire dragon graveyard wasn't just a forbidden area. It was covered with powerful formations and restrictions. There is only one way to enter the dragon graveyard, and that was through Long Shengjia's current location. The true dragon powerhouses guarding the dragon graveyard had to activate the formation and restrictions before they could enter. As for other places, even experts on the level of primal, chaos, ancestral saints couldn't barge in. Are you suspecting that we let someone in without permission? Hearing Long Shengjia's questioning tone, the faces of the guards of the dragon graveyard immediately darkened, and they all looked at Long Shengjia with unfriendly eyes. As guards of the dragon graveyard, they absolutely couldn't let anyone in without permission. They had to be loyal to their duties, otherwise they would be dealt with if there was a mistake. It was the same no matter what background you had. If Long Shengjia's words were to spread, they might lose their lives. Wasn't he deliberately trying to kill them? Therefore, their faces all darkened as they looked at Long Shengjia with murderous intent. If you didn't let anyone in, why are there others in there? Long Shengjia was already extremely angry, and after seeing that these people didn't admit to it, he became even more furious. Therefore, his tone was quite aggressive. "Kid, watch your mouth. You're just a saint ruler. How dare you insult us guards? Watch your mouth. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." One of the ancestral saints, who looked like the leader of a small group, stepped forward and looked at Long Shengjia with murderous intent. If Long Shengjia dared to speak rudely again, he would kill him. Long Shengjia's anger soared to the sky, and his body exploded with murderous intent. Letting someone in without permission, dereliction of duty, this is a capital offense. You guys are really audacious. Long Shengjia took a step forward and looked coldly at the ashen-faced guards. "You're courting death." The leader of the ancestral saints shouted coldly and stepped forward. His large hand suddenly reached out, tore through the void, and viciously grabbed at Long Shengjia. His attack was vicious, and he wanted to seriously injure Long Shengjia. "Ancestral saints, are you very powerful?" Looking at the ancestral saint's large hand that was as fast as lightning, Long Shengjia's eyes showed no fear. On the contrary, a cold smile appeared on his face. The leader of the ancestral saints laughed coldly in his heart, and his large hand did not slow down in the slightest. He had made up his mind to teach this arrogant guy a lesson. Soul attack. Seeing that the ancestral saint's attack was about to land on his head, Long Shengjia suddenly shouted. At the same time, the ancestral saints who had attacked were enveloped by a strong aura of death. At this moment, Long Shengjia's roar had already reached his ears. Immediately, the leader of the ancestral saints' expression changed slightly. In a flash, his power had already rushed into his soul space, and he wanted to block Long Shengjia's attack. However, Long Shengjia's soul had already reached the advanced 2-star level, and he was in the holy king stage. How could the leader of the ancestral saints block such a powerful soul power? With a loud boom, Long Shengjia's soul had already torn apart the leader of the ancestral saints' power and viciously attacked his soul. Suddenly, the leader of the ancestral saints felt as if his soul had been torn into millions of pieces. He screamed in agony, and his entire body was instantly sent flying. His face was terrifyingly pale. In an instant, he had been seriously injured. "You're courting death." Seeing this, The other true dragon powerhouses guarding the graveyard immediately shouted and attacked Long Xingjie. Seeing this, Long Xingjie did not panic. With a long roar, an even more terrifying soul power blasted out. Bang! 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 These are just ordinary true dragon powerhouses. How could they block Long Xingjie's attack? Therefore, at the moment of contact, their souls were severely injured. Those who practice favoritism and corruption must all die. Long Xingjie roared angrily and took a step forward. An even more terrifying soul power blasted out like a torrent towards the few ancestral saints, intending to kill them all in one fell swoop. However, at this moment, a large golden hand appeared in the sky. With a shake of the air, it shattered Long Xingjie's soul attack. Junior of the Abyss Long family, that's enough. All these years, no one has entered the graveyard. A thunderous voice was heard, and it shook Long Xingjie's blood. Long Xingjie had already determined that these people were practicing favoritism and corruption. Therefore, no matter how powerful this person was, he was not afraid and immediately launched an attack. In an instant, Long Xingjie's soul power was raised to the limit, and then he attacked violently. Seeing that Long Xingjie did not listen to him and launched an even more violent attack, the mysterious powerhouse was immediately enraged. Boom! Without any warning, the large hand slammed down from the sky. With a bang, Long Xingjie's soul power was shattered. The terrifying power that erupted from the large hand slammed down. Boom! Crack! Terrifying cracks immediately appeared on Long Xingjie's body. He spat out blood and flew out like a broken rag doll. Boom! Crack! Crack! Long Xingjie's body was still cracking rapidly. At this rate, it wouldn't take more than a few moments for his physical body to completely shatter. By then, he might be killed. Have mercy! At this moment, a low voice was heard. Then, a figure appeared behind Long Xingjie out of thin air. The big hand remained in the air and caught Long Xingjie, who was sent flying. At the same time, an enormous power surged into Long Xingjie's body, quickly repairing his body and shattering the mysterious powerhouse's power. Long Yuan Kuei, that's enough. Do you know who he is? The person who grabbed Long Xingjie was the elder who came with Long Xingjie. He was an expert of the Abyss Long family, the Chaos Ancestor Sage, and he was extremely powerful. Even the Abyss Long family's family leader, behaved properly, let alone a little guy from the Abyss Long family. This is just a lesson for him. If there's a next time, even the Abyss Long family's family leader can't save him. At this moment, a middle-aged man in golden armor appeared in front of Long Xingjie and Long Yuan Kuei. He looked indifferent and said in a cold voice, Long Yuan Kuei, the great commander of the Dragon Graveyard, guarded the Dragon Graveyard and had great authority. Even if it was an expert of the family leader level, he had the authority to refuse entry to the Dragon Graveyard. It was the same even for the Abyss Long family, one of the most powerful forces of the Dragon Clan. The Abyss Long family was the name of Long Xingjie's family. Because the entire Dragon Clan had the same surname, they were divided into countless forces and families. Therefore, to make it easier to distinguish, each force and family had different names. For example, the Abyss Long family that Long Xingjie belonged to, and some Flame Long family, etc. Hee, you can't blame the young master. Long Yuan Kuei, take a good look at what this is. The elder from the Abyss Long family sneered and waved his hand in the air. In the next moment, the image of Murong, you stealing the real dragon's corpse in the dragon graveyard, appeared in front of Long Yuan Kuei and the others. Chapter 1502. When Murong Yu was discovered, Murong Yu was still wandering around the true dragon graveyard, unaware that he had been discovered. Bastard, who is this? Long Yuan Kuei, the commander guarding the dragon graveyard, flew into a rage when he saw this. In the next moment, a sharp but drawn-out dragon roar erupted from his mouth and spread far and wide, instantly enveloping the dragon graveyard. In the next moment, figures broke through the void and arrived. All of them were extremely powerful, with the weakest being at the ancestral saint level. The strongest was at the chaos ancestral saint level. Moreover, there were many powerhouses at this level. These people were the peerless powerhouses selected from the various dragon clans to guard the dragon graveyard. One could imagine how important the dragon graveyard was to the dragon clan. In just an instant, all the powerhouses guarding the dragon graveyard had arrived. In total, there were tens of thousands of them. Among them, a considerable number were at the Chaos Ancestral Saint level. Long Yuanke glanced at the crowd with a gloomy face, then motioned to the old man from the Abyss Dragon clan. The old man understood and waved his hand. Immediately, the scene of Murong Yu stealing the true dragon's corpse appeared in front of everyone again. Whoosh! When they saw this, the crowd immediately surged. Their faces changed color, and they looked at Murong Yu angrily. They gritted their teeth and wanted nothing more than to slap Murong Yu to death. I don't care who or what method they used to let that bastard in, but now everyone has seen the situation. Now, everyone, find that bastard for me. As for who let that bastard in, we'll settle the score later. As he spoke, Long Yuanke snorted coldly. Then his figure swayed and disappeared on the spot, rushing straight into the dragon graveyard. Then, the true dragon powerhouses guarding the dragon graveyard also flew into the dragon graveyard. In just a few breaths' time, the tens of thousands of people had all left, leaving only a few powerhouses from the Abyss Dragon clan standing there with gloomy faces. Long Xingjie looked in the direction of the dragon graveyard with a gloomy face, his eyes filled with murderous intent. He was not a generous person to begin with. After being suppressed by Long Yuanke, he already hated Long Yuanke. It seems like Long Yuanke really doesn't know about letting people in, the old man from the Abyss Dragon family said. Maybe he's just putting on an act now. Long Xingjie smiled coldly, his expression somewhat gloomy. The old man smiled faintly and continued. Even if he was just putting on an act, now that he has been exposed, he will definitely go all out to suppress that person. Otherwise, even if he is the Grand Commander, he will not be able to bear the consequences. Long Xingjie nodded as his eyes flashed. Then, he took a step forward and charged into the dragon graveyard. While these people were searching for Murong Yu in the dragon graveyard, Murong Yu had already subdued another 3-star true dragon. At this moment, he was sitting cross-legged in a true dragon graveyard, refining the soul form of the true dragon. Rumble. Before long, Murong Yu's body trembled, and then a terrifying pressure erupted from his body. It instantly enveloped the entire true dragon graveyard. 3-star 4th firmament soul formation. After a long time, Murong Yu suddenly opened his eyes. 2 beams of holy light shot out from his eyes, as if they had materialized. After everything disappeared, Murong Yu smiled and said, "That's right." In fact, a 3-star true dragon soul form was not enough for him to quickly break through to the 4th firmament soul formation. However, before refining this true dragon soul form, Murong Yu had refined many other true dragon soul forms. Therefore, he was able to break through in one go. When I was at the 4th firmament, my soul pool had already expanded to a radius of 80,000 miles. But after breaking through, it only increased by 10,000 miles, reaching 90,000 miles. After checking the changes in his soul pool, Murong Yu's brows furrowed. Before this, every time he broke through a small realm, his soul pool would double. But now the increase was too small. However, Murong Yu only furrowed his brows for a brief moment. He wasn't disappointed. After all, he was only at the 4th firmament of a 3-star soul formation, but his soul pool had already reached the peak of a 3-star soul formation. It should be known that the strongest 3-star soul pool was only 100,000 miles. If Murong Yu also reached the peak of a 3-star soul pool, it would probably exceed 100,000 miles. It would suppress all experts of the same level. After stabilizing his cultivation, Murong Yu was about to go out. But at this moment, he suddenly realized that 3 experts with powerful and violent auras were flying towards him from afar. Even before these people had arrived, their divine senses had already swept over like a tidal wave. It was because these people's divine senses alerted the divine senses that Murong Yu left outside the dragon's graveyard that Murong Yu discovered this scene. Something is wrong. Murong Yu's heart sank. He had been in the dragon's graveyard for many days, but he had never found any traces of a living person, or rather, a living dragon. But today there were 3 of them, and these 3 seemed to be extremely angry, as if they were looking for something. Have I been discovered? Murong Yu's guess was right. These 3 people were one of the true dragon experts who were looking for him. In a flash, the 3 true dragon experts had already arrived in front of Murong Yu's graveyard. Swish! Suddenly, 3 extremely powerful divine senses blasted into the graveyard that Murong Yu was in. Murong Yu's face suddenly changed. With a thought, he wanted to rush into the Hichu Luoshu world. However, it was already too late. Before he entered, the 3 Dragon Clan experts had already discovered his existence. He's here! When they saw Murong Yu, the 3 true dragon experts looked at each other and attacked at the same time. Rumble, an extremely powerful force, shattered the void and suppressed everything. With a loud bang, it blasted into the graveyard that Murong Yu was in. Crack! The graveyard that Murong Yu was in exploded into pieces. Bastard! Murong Yu cursed, but his figure had already stopped in the void. If he still wanted to enter the Hichu Luoshu world now, he might have charged into the turbulent space. Perhaps, with the strength of his body and the power of his various treasures, he could survive in the turbulent space. But he would definitely not be able to return to the Saint's world. Boom! In an instant, Murong Yu erupted with all his strength and bombarded the incoming force. At the same time, the Hichu Luoshu, Inyan Cauldron, and other treasures had already been sent out. They floated above Murong Yu's head and shone down sacred light, protecting Murong Yu firmly. Time rules. Reverse time and space. Reverse time. At the same time, Murong Yu used the power of time rules to strike with the power of time, reversing time and space in front of him. Puff, puff, puff. After a series of muffled noises, the space around Murong Yu calmed down. This was because the power of the 3 ancestral sages had been shattered by Murong Yu. It was not because Murong Yu was too strong, nor was it because the 3 ancestral sages were too weak. In fact, the power that the ancestral sages struck out was only 20 to 30% of their strength. After all, they were in a hurry to stop Murong Yu from running away. Moreover, they had achieved their goal. With a flash, the 3 of them had already rushed into the graveyard. At the same time, the 3 big hands burst out with powerful strength, broke the void, and violently grabbed at Murong Yu. Acalanthus seal. Murong Yu's expression changed greatly. He roared in his heart and struck out the Acalanthus seal. In an instant, a black energy barrier enveloped Murong Yu's entire body. At the same time, the soul pool in Murong Yu's soul space was completely rioting. Waves of violent soul power strangled out. Heavenly annihilation. Murong Yu roared in his heart. A soul-fighting skill fiercely enveloped the 3 ancestral sages who had rushed in and violently strangled them. Boom! When Murong Yu launched the soul attack, the attacks of the 3 ancestral sages had already landed on the black shield of the Acalanthus seal. Suddenly, the black barrier shook violently, but it was only a violent shake. It did not cause any substantial harm to Murong Yu. After all, the 3 ancestral sages were also ancestral sages, but their strength was only ordinary. When Murong Yu had just succeeded in cultivating the Acalanthus seal, he could withstand the attacks of more than 10 ancestral sages without dying. Now, there were only 3 of them. Seeing that Murong Yu was fine after taking their attacks head-on, the 3 ancestral sages could not help but be shocked. But soon they began to feel fear. This was because their hearts had been enveloped by an extremely strong aura of death. Even their souls were trembling violently. The 3 ancestral sages' hearts suddenly trembled, and a thought appeared in their minds at the same time. Soul attack. Poof, poof, poof. The 3 ancestral sages did not have time to react effectively, and their souls had been ruthlessly attacked. In an instant, their souls were almost shattered. However, they were after all experts in the ancestral sage realm, and Murong-Yu's strength was still quite a distance away from theirs. Therefore, they were only severely injured. However, what kind of person was Murong-Yu? He was ruthless to his enemies. Therefore, after the first attack, he unleashed a second wave of attacks, a third wave. Wave after wave of soul attacks continuously blasted out. Instantly, the three ancestral sages who were unprepared met with tragedy, and their souls were directly destroyed. Phew! Murong-Yu breathed a sigh of relief. Although the duration of this battle was very short, it was extremely dangerous. If Murong-Yu's reaction had been half a beat slower, he would have been the one to die. If the three ancestral sages had not been so careless, it would have been extremely difficult for Murong-Yu to kill them. Once they reacted, even Murong-Yu's soul attack would not have been effective. Chapter 1503. In other words, Murong-Yu's ability to kill the three ancestral saints so quickly was mostly due to luck. I wonder if it's just the three of them who discover my existence, or if the other Dragon Clan experts have discovered me as well. Murong-Yu pondered as he stored the storage rings of the three ancestral saints he had killed into the Hichu Luoshu world. Right at that moment, a divine sense as vast as the ocean descended from the sky, instantly enveloping the space where Murong-Yu was. It's a primal chaos ancestral saint. The pressure that erupted from the consciousness was so terrifying that it could almost suppress Murong-Yu's entire being and soul. Murong-Yu even had a feeling that he couldn't resist. The owner of this terrifying consciousness had to be a supreme existence among the primal chaos ancestral saints. It was impossible for an ordinary primal chaos ancestral saint to suppress Murong-Yu. Without any time to think, Murong-Yu took a step forward and charged straight into the Hichu Luoshu world. The moment Murong-Yu's foot disappeared, a noble and incomparably powerful foot stepped out from the depths of space and time. It stomped on the sky and finally stepped on the ground of the tomb where Murong-Yu was. Then a black shadow flashed past. It was a tall, middle-aged man in golden armor who exuded a terrifying aura. When the middle-aged man appeared in the tomb, Murong-Yu's figure happened to disappear into the endless space. Thus, the middle-aged man in golden armor snorted coldly and reached out his large hand to grab Murong-Yu. Rumble wherever the giant hand passed. Large swaths of the void would collapse and shatter. Even the space of the tomb seemed to be unable to withstand the boundless pressure of the large hand, and shook violently as if it was about to collapse. The man in golden armor, who was originally indifferent and filled with chilling, killing intent, suddenly exclaimed in surprise. This was because he suddenly discovered that his large hand had actually crashed headfirst into an alternate time and space. Although he did not know the laws of time, nor did he understand the power of time. However, the flow of time in the alternate space-time and the current space-time was different, so it was easy to distinguish them. What surprised the middle-aged man was that it was impossible to reverse time and space in the Dragon Tomb. In other words, this reversal of space-time was the doing of the person who had escaped. Humph! The middle-aged man was surprised that Murong-Yu could control the power of time. However, the difference in strength between them was too great. Murong-Yu's current power of time couldn't stop him at all. The middle-aged man's hand shook violently, and Murong-Yu's reverse space-time was shattered. But even if it was only for a moment, it was enough for Murong-Yu to escape. When the middle-aged man tried to grab Murong-Yu again, he realized that there was no trace of Murong-Yu. Yes, there was no trace to be found. Bastard! Although he only glanced at Murong-Yu's back, the middle-aged man knew that Murong-Yu's strength was not high. But it was precisely because of this that he became more and more angry. Long Yuan Kuei, did you catch that bastard? At this moment, a faint voice sounded. Before the voice fell, a group of people appeared in the tomb space. It was Long Xingjie and the others from the Abyss Long family. The middle-aged man who attacked earlier was obviously the commander of the Dragon Tomb, Long Yuan Kuei. The reason why they all rushed over so quickly was that they had all received the news of the disappearance of the three ancestral saints killed by Murongyu. Long Yuan Kuei was the first to receive the news and was also the closest. Therefore, he was the first to arrive. Long Yuan Kuei shook his head with a gloomy expression, and a dangerous aura flashed in his eyes. You must have gone easy on him. I think you must have let that person in. Long Xingjie was a petty person, and he was still brooding over the fact that he was almost killed by Long Yuan Kuei not long ago. Therefore, at this moment, his voice was cold. Whoosh! Long Yuan Kuei looked at Long Xingjie fiercely. His gaze was as cold and indifferent as a knife. As soon as he met Long Yuan Kuei's gaze, Long Xingjie felt a chill in his heart, and his body couldn't help but tremble. His heart was shrouded by a strong sense of fear. Junior, you should know that trouble comes from the mouth. If you still can't control your mouth, then you'll never speak again, Long Yuan Kuei said indifferently. But his tone was so cold that it directly penetrated Long Xingjie's soul. At this moment, Long Xingjie felt Long Yuan Kuei's undisguised anger. Naked, murderous intent. He believed that Long Yuan Kuei would definitely dare to kill him. Long Yuan Kuei, as the commander of the tomb guards, you won't argue with a child, right? The mysterious elder from the Abyss Long family took a step forward and lay down in front of Long Xingjie. At the same time, he slowly said to Long Yuan Kuei, watch your back. Otherwise, even the Abyss Long family can't stop me from killing him, Long Yuan Kuei said indifferently. But the murderous intent in his tone was extremely strong. The elder just laughed dryly, and then changed the topic. Long Yuan Kuei, you seem to have found something? Long Yuan Kuei nodded and frowned slightly, as if he was organizing his words or something. The others just kept silent and didn't urge him. Especially the experts from the Holy Land guarding the tomb. All of them were silent. More and more people were rushing over. That person doesn't seem to be from our dragon clan, but a human, Long Yuan Kuei said after pondering for a long time. Impossible. It must be you. Before Long Yuan Kuei's voice fell, Long Xingjie was the first to deny it. At the same time, when he was about to say that Long Yuan Kuei was trying to shirk responsibility, he saw Long Yuan Kuei's eyes full of murderous intent. So, he immediately shut his mouth. Long Yuan Kuei, are you kidding? This is the forbidden area of our dragon clan. How can a human appear here? Not to mention here, without the invitation of our dragon clan, it's impossible for people from other clans to appear in our dragon world. If I'm not mistaken, our dragon world hasn't welcomed any guests for many eras. The elder from the Abyss Dragon family shook his head and directly expressed his thoughts. At the same time, he looked even more doubtful. As for the others, although they didn't believe that a human would sneak in here, they were Long Yuan Kuei's subordinates. As Long Yuan Kuei's subordinates, they knew Long Yuan Kuei's character very well. They knew that Long Yuan Kuei was definitely not spouting nonsense. Could it be that the great commander really let that person in secretly? He's just trying to divert attention now. Some people thought secretly and looked at Long Yuan Kuei suspiciously. Long Yuan Kuei sneered when he saw everyone's reaction. Not to mention them. Even he didn't believe it. However, he really sensed an aura that didn't belong to the Dragon Clan. Immediately, he didn't explain himself and just said coldly, "Feel the aura here carefully." In fact, even if Long Yuan Kuei didn't say anything, many people had already begun to feel the aura here. As Murongyu had left in a hurry, he didn't have time to erase the aura he left behind in the void. Therefore, it didn't take long for the true dragon powerhouses to feel that Murongyu's aura was completely different from theirs. It's actually true. Although I don't know if he's from the human clan, he's definitely from the human clan. He's definitely not from the dragon clan. Apart from Long Yuan Kuei, only the elder from the Abyss Dragon family was strong. In just a few seconds, he found Murongyu's aura among the tens of thousands of auras. Not long after, the others also sensed it. However, they were even more confused now. If the grave robber was really an outsider, how did he enter the dragon world? Moreover, how did he enter their forbidden land? Things were getting serious. Long Yuan Kuei's face sank when he saw the elder from the Abyss Dragon family's expression. Has our dragon clan invited any outsiders as guests recently? Long Yuan Kuei asked the elder from the Abyss Dragon family. The elder from the Abyss Dragon family quickly shook his head. The Dragon Clan's world had been peaceful all these years. They hadn't appeared in the outside world, nor had they invited anyone as guests. However, why would an outsider appear here? Could it be a true dragon in disguise? However, this guess was quickly denied by them. True dragons had a strong or weak connection with each other. Their aura was easy to identify. However, Morong didn't have the aura of a true dragon at all. Could it be? Suddenly, Long Yuan Kuei and the elder from the Abyss Dragon family exchanged glances. Then, their figures swayed and they both disappeared. As for Long Xingjie and the others, they looked at each other in confusion. Swoosh! Swoosh! Two silhouettes suddenly appeared outside the dragon tail that Murong Yu had appeared from. They were Long Yuan Kuei and the elder from the Abyss Dragon family. Did that person enter the dragon graveyard from here? Long Yuan Kuei and the elder from the Abyss Dragon family frowned as they looked at the dragon tail that was floating in the depths of space. Legend has it that this true dragon was a traitor of our dragon clan. After it was killed by the almighty of the dragon clan, it was refined into a passage. Originally, this passage was used as a backup passage for our dragon clan. However, a long time ago, for some unknown reason, this passage closed automatically. No matter how hard we tried, we couldn't pass through this passage. Could it be that someone discovered this passage? As they spoke, the two of them had already soared into the sky and flew toward the anus of the dragon tail in the sky. However, they soon stopped. This was because they couldn't enter at all. We can't enter, but how did that person come in? No, this matter must be reported to the higher-ups. Long Yuan Kuei, immediately seal off the entire graveyard. Don't let that person escape. We need to know how he got in here. The old man from the Abyss Dragon family said a few words to Long Yuan Kuei in a commanding tone, then left. At this time, Long Yuan Kuei didn't care so much and left quickly. If more people entered the Dragon Clan's world through the passage that Murong Yu had entered, the Dragon Clan's world would definitely suffer a great loss if they reacted hastily. Chapter 1504. Compared to Murong Yu, the grave robber, being able to enter the Dragon Clan's world was much more dangerous to the Dragon Clan. Therefore, the true dragons were eager to capture Murong Yu and force him to reveal the passage he came in. They were prepared to seal it off at any time. Murong Yu was naturally unaware of all this. Now, he was frowning in Hichu Luoshu. This was Murong Yu's first time entering Hichu Luoshu in the Dragon Clan's graveyard. Murong Yu wasn't an impulsive person. Therefore, no matter where he went, no matter what he did, he would make all the preparations and escape routes in advance. Therefore, after knowing that he was discovered, Murong Yu began to sense the teleportation points that were previously set up after entering Hichu Luoshu. As long as he could sense these teleportation points, Murong Yu could directly teleport through Hichu Luoshu. However, what made him depressed was that he could not sense those teleportation points at this time. Even some of the teleportation points that were previously set up in the Dragon Clan's graveyard could not be sensed. In other words, Murong Yu could only enter the Hichu Luoshu world, but he could not teleport. Even Murong Yu could not sense the existence of the origin of the realm of gods. He could not teleport out of the graveyard through Hichu Luoshu, nor could he teleport back to the realm of gods, immortals, etc. If Murong Yu wanted to leave the graveyard, he could only rely on himself to leave. However, Murong Yu could not confirm now. Was it because of the Dragon Clan's graveyard that he could not sense the teleportation points? Or was it because of the entire Dragon Clan's world? If it was only the Dragon Clan's graveyard, this was easy. Murong Yu could leave the graveyard and teleport again. But if the entire Dragon Clan's world could not be teleported, then it would be a tragedy. Murong Yu did not even know if the corpse of the true dragon that he entered the Dragon Clan's world could allow him to teleport back again. Murong-Yu's heart gradually sank as he sensed the incomparably powerful divine senses tearing through the air and tearing through the air. There were more and more powerful divine senses. Presumably, more and more Dragon Clan powerhouses had come to the Dragon Clan graveyard. Murong-Yu's guess was not wrong. There were indeed a large number of dragon powerhouses entering the dragon graveyard. Moreover, almost all of those who entered later were at the level of primal chaos ancestor sages. These were the top powerhouses of the Dragon Clan. Although the Dragon Clan was divided into different clans and forces, they were still a single race in the end. Life and death were the same. Therefore, when the Abyssal Dragon family spread the news that outsiders had entered the dragon world and even the dragon graveyard, the entire dragon race was alarmed. All of a sudden, countless powerhouses entered the dragon graveyard and began to search for Murong-Yu or that passageway. However, Murong-Yu had already hidden Hichu Luoshu well. He turned into an inconspicuous speck of dust and landed on one of the dragon graveyards. Although many divine senses constantly scanned Hichu Luoshu, they did not discover anything strange about Hichu Luoshu. Naturally, they could not discover Murong-Yu. At this time, a considerable number of true dragon powerhouses had gathered in front of the true dragon corpse that Murong-Yu had ejected. Could it be that the foreign race was teleported in from here? A true dragon powerhouse asked with a gloomy face. During this period of time, they had searched the entire dragon graveyard but did not find any passageway. Therefore, this passageway naturally became the target of their suspicion. However, doubts aside, they could not enter this passageway at all. Therefore, they cannot be sure. Legend has it that this is a backup passageway for our Dragon Clan. If we encounter any irresistible force, we can leave the Dragon Clan world from here. On the other side of the passageway is a mysterious space, another true dragon at the chaotic ancestor saint level said in a deep voice. To put it bluntly, this passageway was actually used by the Dragon Clan to escape. However, this passageway has been sealed countless years ago. For countless years, many powerhouses have emerged from our Dragon Clan, but no one has been able to solve the mystery of this passageway being sealed. If that foreign race really entered from here, then others can enter from here too. I suggest that there must be a true dragon at the chaotic ancestor saint level guarding this place in the future. If you encounter any foreign race, kill them without mercy. Everyone hurriedly nodded and began to set up large formations and restrictions. Not long after, the entire area around the true dragon corpse was completely enveloped by hundreds of millions of large formations and restrictions. It was impenetrable. Not to mention humans, even the wind could not pass through these formations and restrictions. In addition, there were hundreds of true dragons at the chaotic ancestor saint level guarding this place. At the slightest sign of trouble, these true dragon powerhouses would attack and kill everything in their path. Fortunately, Murong-Yu did not see this scene right now, or he would die of pain in the balls. Oh no! Murong-Yu was originally lying in ambush on top of the dragon tomb. But all of a sudden, his expression changed. He suddenly realized that an extremely powerful divine sense was sweeping over from afar. Of course, Murong-Yu was not afraid of this terrifying divine sense. He realized that wherever this divine sense passed, the void would shatter and everything on the ground would be annihilated. If this divine sense swept past the He-2 and the Book of the Luo, it would definitely be exposed unless the He-2 and the Book of the Luo were shattered like dust. However, how did Hichu Luoshu shatter? This was impossible. Whoosh! With a thought from Murong-Yu, Hichu Luoshu, which had transformed into a speck of dust, immediately sank down. However, Murong-Yu did not dare to make any big movements. He just followed the small cracks on the surface of the tomb and quickly fell into the tomb. Murong-Yu did it quickly and without attracting any attention. However, it did not mean that he would be safe after entering the true dragon tomb. Perhaps before this, the true dragon's divine sense would not dare to enter these tombs. After all, the people buried here were their ancestors. It would be disgraceful for them to do that. However, compared to the survival of the entire dragon clan, they could not care less at this time. Streams of immensely powerful divine wills shattered the void, pulverizing all the dust and even the earth. Everywhere they passed, everything was shattered. For a moment, the entire dragon tomb was enveloped by these powerful divine senses. Yu felt a strong sense of danger. He knew that even if he entered the dragon tomb, he might not be safe. However, when Yu saw the 800,000-kilometer-long true dragon's corpse, an idea flashed in his mind. They dare to shatter the tomb because they can easily restore it after shattering it without completely destroying it. However, do they dare to shatter the true dragon's corpse? Do they dare to check the true dragon's corpse, and scrupulously this time? With that thought in mind, Yu had already taken action. With a whoosh, Hichu Luo Shu, which had transformed into a speck of dust, had turned into a stream of light that streaked across the void and rushed directly into the true dragon's mouth. After thinking about it, Yu still felt that it was not safe enough, so he went deep into the true dragon's body through the true dragon's mouth. Boom! Just as Yu entered the true dragon's body, the void of the dragon tomb where he was suddenly shattered. The terrifying pressure even shattered the entire tomb. Seeing this, Yu could not help but feel lucky. If he had not reacted quickly, he would have been discovered long ago. Moreover, just as Yu had expected, although the true dragon expert had shattered the entire tomb, he did not dare to envelop the true dragon's corpse with his divine consciousness. In fact, the true dragon's corpse was so long, and the space within it was so large that it could easily hide hundreds of millions of people, let alone one person. Rumble, after the dragon tomb was shattered, the true dragon expert's divine consciousness carefully checked it again. However, he still did not find anything. In the end, they rebuilt the tomb, and the divine consciousness quickly left. Hiding in the true dragon's stomach, Yu could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. Nothing. Nothing at all. Many primal chaos ancestor, saint-level experts were doing this. Soon, they finished checking the entire dragon tomb, but they did not find anything. There are no traces of the tomb's formation and restriction being touched. That foreign race must still be in the tomb. But could he be hiding in the ancestor's corpse? A primal chaos ancestor, saint-level true dragon, said with a frown. How dare he? The true dragons all roared in unison. However, they also knew that there was nothing a foreign race wouldn't dare to do. If that's the case, we'll be disrespecting our ancestor. I'm afraid we'll have to spend a lot of effort to find him. Letting that bastard hide in our ancestor's body is disrespectful to our ancestor. We must find that bastard as soon as possible. Our entire dragon race can't be toyed with by a kid from another race. We have to ask for instructions on this matter, and we don't have enough manpower. Therefore, everyone quickly reached an agreement and began to spread the news and their plan. They needed the approval of the true decision-makers of the Dragon Clan before they dared to take action. We can't go on like this. We have to leave this place first. At this moment, Yu had already quietly left the dragon tomb that he was originally in. This tomb seems a little different. Not long after Yu left, he found a tomb that was bigger and more majestic than any other Dragon Clan tomb he had ever seen. Moreover, there were no other tombs around it. The tomb was everywhere, indicating that the true dragon buried in it was not simple. It was very likely that there were great rewards inside. Since I'm about to leave this place, I might as well do it before leaving. Yu thought to himself, but he had already rushed into the tomb. However, what Yu did not know was that he had directly stepped into the gates of hell. Chapter 1505. This was an incomparably large independent space, much larger than any of the true dragon graveyards Yu had seen before. In fact, it was countless times larger. Aside from this incomparably large space, Yu also saw an incomparably huge true dragon entrenched in the void. Yes, it was a true dragon and not a true dragon corpse. Although it was actually a true dragon corpse, it gave Murong a strange feeling. Murong could feel that the true dragon was still alive. However, when he tried to sense it seriously, he felt that the true dragon was completely dead and had no aura of life. This true dragon was at least a primal chaos ancestor saint when it was alive. Murong was shocked as he looked at the true dragon corpse that was 8 to 9 million meters long. The length of a true dragon's body determined its strength. Under normal circumstances, a true dragon at the primal chaos ancestor saint level would have a body length of 6 million miles. The one in front of Murong was 8 to 9 million miles long and was definitely a top existence among the primal chaos ancestor saints. However, no matter how powerful the true dragon was when it was alive, it was just a corpse now. Although Murong was shocked for a while, Murong quickly regained his composure. Primal chaos ancestral weapons. Murong's eyes swept across the huge space and found several burial items of the true dragon. There was nothing shiny or useless in this space. There were only a few sacred artifacts and magic treasures scattered on the ground. However, these items were not low-grade and were all at the primal chaos ancestor saint level. There were a total of 5 of them. I was right to come. Not to mention the primal chaos ancestor saint level true dragon corpse. These primal chaos ancestral weapons are worth the risk. Murong thought with a smile on his face. With a thought, he reached out his hand and grabbed the primal chaos ancestral weapons. For some reason, Murong deliberately checked these primal chaos ancestral weapons this time. However, the result was obvious. These primal chaos ancestral artifacts were ownerless. In other words, if they were sacred weapons of the chaos ancestor sage level true dragon, then the true dragon was truly dead. Therefore, Murong stored the primal chaos ancestral artifacts into the He-Tu and the Luo Shu. Then he looked at the gigantic true dragon corpse. After collecting this true dragon's corpse, I'll quickly leave this true dragon graveyard. Murong thought to himself, but his hand had already reached out and grabbed the true dragon's corpse. Whoosh! Just as Murong's hand touched the true dragon's corpse, a holy light flashed within the true dragon's body. At the same time, Murong felt as if something had rushed into his soul space. A strong aura of death instantly enveloped Murong's mind. Rumble without any hesitation, Murong's soul pool began to move violently. Waves of soul power burst out like stormy waves, instantly filling the entire soul space. At the same time, Murong's soul swayed and disappeared into the depths of the soul pool. At this time, a figure appeared in Murong's soul space. Upon closer inspection, it wasn't actually a person, but a true dragon that was several meters long. It was also at this time that the true dragon that gave Murong the feeling that it was still alive disappeared from Murong's heart. A true dragon in soul form, Murong said coldly as he looked at the true dragon in soul space. But soon his face turned gloomy. This was because he found that this true dragon in soul form was very different from the true dragons in soul form he had seen before. There was no brutality, no brutality. You're a true dragon's soul? Murong couldn't help but exclaim. This was a complete true dragon soul, not just a true dragon in soul form. At this time, Murong finally reacted. Why did the true dragon's corpse give him the feeling that it was still alive? Originally, the true dragon wasn't dead. However, if the true dragon wasn't dead, why didn't it just slap Murong to death? Why did it sneak into Murong's soul space? With doubts in his heart, Murong carefully sized up the true dragon's soul. Soon, he knew what was going on. This was a true dragon's soul, and it was very powerful. However, it wasn't complete. In other words, this true dragon's soul had been severely damaged. Murong guessed that the true dragon's soul he was looking at now should have taken countless years to condense. The true dragon's soul should be less than a third of the original. With this level of soul, it was impossible to control the true dragon's body. If he wanted to control the true dragon and recover his original strength, he had to make his soul stronger. Devouring other souls was undoubtedly the simplest and most direct way to strengthen his own soul. Of course, with the strength of his soul, he couldn't devour those true dragons in soul form. This was because he couldn't refine the violent and negative energy that existed in the true dragon's soul form. At this time, Murong Yu barged in. At this time, the true dragon's soul was extremely agitated. He was originally a super powerhouse of the dragon clan. Although he wasn't as strong as a supreme, he was still one of the strongest at the Chaos Ancestor Sage level. However, a long time ago, his soul had been shattered by a supreme slap. He died without being able to put up any resistance. He couldn't accept it, relying on the unwillingness in his heart. He used the soul that hadn't completely dissipated to condense and repair his soul. After countless years, he finally condensed and repaired the remaining remnants of his soul. However, it was only a third of the original. Moreover, what made him furious was that he was buried in the Dragon Clan's graveyard. This was the Dragon Clan's forbidden area, and no one usually came here. Even if he wanted to devour souls, he couldn't. If this continued, he definitely wouldn't be able to recover to his peak state. Now, Murong Yu suddenly came in. All these years, he had been condensing and repairing his soul. The true dragon was very sensitive to souls. He immediately realized that Murong Yu's soul was extremely strong. Therefore, he decided to devour Murong Yu's soul. He felt that if he could devour the soul, his soul could recover to 80 to 90% of its original strength, or at least 60%. As long as it could recover half of its original strength, he could control his physical body again. When that time came, he could be born again. Human kid, obediently offer up your soul. Then I'll leave you with an intact corpse. Otherwise, I'll turn your bones into ashes. The true dragon smiled indifferently, as if Murong Yu was already a fish on his chopping board. Murong Yu smiled. Although the true dragon's soul was very strong, his soul was even stronger. The true dragon's behavior was like a little kid who had just learned how to walk, saying that he was going to kill a strong man who knew martial arts. It was quite funny. Boom! It seemed that the true dragon couldn't wait any longer. Before he finished his sentence, he had already made his move. He condensed a huge fist and punched Murong Yu's soul pond. Boom! After a deafening sound, Murong Yu's soul pond was like a calm lake that had a huge rock thrown into it. Huge waves surged. However, that was all there was to it. If you have a physical body, I'll naturally run away when I see you. But now, you're courting death. Murong Yu sneered. At the same time, in the soul pond, endless soul power condensed into a huge hand. It shattered the void and grabbed at the true dragon's soul. Bang! The true dragon's huge hand immediately met Murong Yu's attack. However, as soon as it came into contact, it quickly shattered. However, the huge hand condensed by Murong Yu's soul didn't stop at all. It went straight in and grabbed the true dragon's soul. At the same time, an incomparably powerful pressure enveloped Murong Yu's entire soul space, suppressing him from all directions. At this moment, the true dragon's expression changed. This was because he realized that Murong Yu's soul was stronger than he had expected. It was simply too strong. Murong Yu's soul had already reached the third star, fourth heaven. Although the true dragon's soul was strong, it was only about 1 star. With a bang, the true dragon's soul was suppressed to the ground. It couldn't struggle at all. Didn't you want to devour my soul? Now, let's see if it's you devouring my soul or I devouring yours. Murong Yu's soul rose from the soul pool and stood in front of the true dragon's soul, his voice indifferent. At the same time, Murong Yu's soul opened its mouth and swallowed the true dragon's soul before Murong Yu's voice could even be heard. What Murong Yu didn't notice was that when he devoured the true dragon's soul, the true dragon's soul revealed a sinister smile. Rumble. Just as Murong Yu was about to refine the true dragon's soul, the true dragon's soul suddenly exploded and turned into millions of powder. Then, it dissipated in all directions. In an instant, the true dragon's soul appeared in every part of Murong Yu's soul. At this moment, Murong Yu felt an inexplicable suction force appear out of nowhere. The essence, energy, and spirit of his soul began to disappear at a speed visible to the naked eye. At this moment, the true dragon's soul rapidly expanded and its aura became stronger. Moreover, there was more and more powder. The true dragon actually wanted to use this method to devour Murong Yu's soul. This was something that Murong Yu didn't expect. Moreover, it was very likely that the true dragon had this idea from the beginning. In a hurry, Murong Yu was really caught off guard. Facing such an unfamiliar attack, he actually didn't react. Chapter 1506. The true dragon's soul was trying to devour Murong Yu's soul. While Murong Yu's soul was being devoured, the true dragon's soul continued to strengthen. If this continued, it wouldn't take long before Murong Yu's soul was completely devoured. The true dragon's soul would recover to its peak. Murong Yu wouldn't allow this to happen. However, he couldn't react in time. After all, it was his first time encountering such a situation. However, he wasn't stupid. He quickly thought of a way to counterattack. Since the true dragon's soul could be turned into millions of powder and devoured, he could do the same. Moreover, his soul was stronger than the true dragon's soul. Moreover, Murong Yu had fused with it his soul-devouring orb. In terms of devouring ability, even a 4-star soul sage wasn't as powerful as him. With a single thought, Murong Yu's soul shattered with a bang, turning into millions of particles that scattered to every corner of the spiritual space. Seeing this, the true dragon let out a cry of surprise. He didn't expect Murong Yu to be like this. It was extremely dangerous. If he wasn't careful, he would be doomed eternally and his soul would be destroyed. If he hadn't been gathering his shattered soul all these years, he wouldn't have known it could be like this. Obviously, Murong Yu hadn't tried this before. However, the true dragon was only surprised for a moment. Murong Yu's soul was very powerful, much more powerful than his. This was a fact that the true dragon had to admit. If he wanted to devour Murong Yu's soul, he would have to spend a lot of effort. However, now that Murong Yu's soul had turned into millions of powder, his devouring speed naturally increased. Kid, if you didn't shatter your soul, you could have lived longer. But now? The true dragon sneered in his heart and began to devour Murong Yu's soul faster. He couldn't wait to be resurrected. However, the true dragon's expression changed very quickly. This was because he suddenly discovered that there was an extremely powerful suction force that was constantly devouring his soul fragments. In the beginning, it was only a little, but as time passed, more and more of his soul was devoured, and the speed at which it was devoured became faster and faster. This brat can also devour souls. The true dragon was so shocked that it broke out in cold sweat. With a thought, he increased the speed of his devouring. He wanted to see if Murong Yu's devouring speed was faster than his. Seeing the true dragon's performance, Murong Yu sneered in his heart. His soul had reached the 3-star fourth firmament, and he had the ability of the soul-devouring pearl. After turning the soul into millions of powder, he enveloped the true dragon's soul. The soul fragments of the true dragon were immediately devoured by him. Then he refined it and fused it into his soul. Of course, during this process, his soul was constantly being devoured by the true dragon. However, the speed at which they were being devoured was far slower than the speed at which he was devouring the true dragon's soul. Within a certain period of time, 1 unit of Murong Yu's soul was devoured. However, he was able to devour 2 units of soul fragments from the true dragon. After a long time, the true dragon's soul would definitely be completely devoured. Obviously, the true dragon also realized this problem. He actually started to shrink his soul. However, how could Murong Yu allow him to shrink his soul? Now, the initiative was in Murong Yu's hands. Devour, devour, refine, refine. Murong Yu pushed the power of his soul to the limit and devoured the true dragon's soul in a frenzy. Then, a scene that made the true dragon feel fear appeared. His soul fragments were devoured by Murong Yu like a torrent. Although he was also devouring Murong Yu's soul, he was only devouring a small stream. It was obvious who was superior. Not long after, 1/3 of the true dragon's soul was devoured. At this time, the true dragon finally panicked. "Brat, stop right there." The true dragon roared angrily. Moronu snorted coldly and continued to devour the soul. "Brat, as long as you stop, I can give you my physical body. Do you see? My physical body has reached 9 million miles long, and I'm a peak primal chaos ancestor sage. If you can refine it into your clone, you'll be equivalent to a primal chaos ancestor sage. Perhaps it was to survive, or perhaps it was hatching some scheme." The true dragon actually took the initiative to say this. Hearing this, Moronu was shocked. He had heard of clones before, and this kind of thing was normal. However, ordinary clones were not powerful enough and were far inferior to the original body. Moreover, condensing a clone required a lot of attention and various resources. It was already difficult for Moron's original body to raise his cultivation level, and he did not even have enough materials, let alone refining a clone. Therefore, he had never thought of refining a clone. But now that the true dragon said this, he was a little tempted. This true dragon's body was relatively powerful and could almost be said to be at the peak of the holy world. If Moronu refined it into a clone, who in the holy world would be able to do anything to him apart from sovereigns and rulers? This was especially true when the entire world was his enemy. As a result, Moronu could not help but be tempted. However, he also knew how difficult it would be to refine the true dragon's body into his clone. Observing his expression, the true dragon knew that Moronu was tempted, so it continued to persuade. "This body is mine, so I'm quite familiar with it. If you let me go, I can help you refine it into your body as soon as possible. Without my help, you probably won't be able to refine your clone even after billions of years." Moronu immediately sneered. "That's your body. Are you really willing to give it to me and become my clone? Don't tell me you're scheming something?" Moronu did not believe the true dragon's words at all. If it were him, he would not give his body to someone else either. As a result, the true dragon immediately fell silent. However, the true dragon soon spoke again. "I just want to live. As long as my soul can be protected, I don't care about my body at all." "But I don't believe you," Moronu said indifferently, "unless you tell me all the habits of your body." As he spoke, Moronu slowed down the rate at which he devoured the true dragon's soul, but he did not stop. The true dragon did the same. If he did not devour the soul, his soul would be sucked dry by Moronu very quickly. Perhaps because he really did want to live, the true dragon began to reveal some of his physical body's habits. Although Moronu didn't really believe her, he still carefully listened to her. "All right, I've already told you everything. Can you let me go now?" The true dragon asked Moronu with a hopeful tone after it was done. Moronu smiled. "When did I agree to let you go?" The true dragon flew into a rage. "You little bastard! How dare you go back on your word?" Moronu sneered. "Did I say I would let you go? I'm just asking you to tell me the habits of your body. Are you telling me this in order to gain my trust? What does it have to do with me? Now you can die." As he spoke, Moronu once again increased the speed at which he devoured the true dragon's soul. The true dragon was furious. He cursed Moronu crazily, and at the same time, he fought back. However, his counterattack was to no avail. Not long after, 2/3 of the true dragon's soul had been devoured. "Little bastard, you want to devour me? You're dreaming. If you want to die, we'll all die together." The true dragon suddenly roared. Then, with a bang, his entire soul exploded. He actually self-destructed. Caught off guard, Moronu's soul fragments were directly blasted away. During this process, a lot of Moronu's soul fragments were blasted into powder. If it weren't for the fact that the true dragon soul was extremely weak and didn't explode with much power, Moronu's soul would have been seriously injured. Whoosh! At the same time as the true dragon's soul self-destructed, a ray of holy light shot out from Moronu's soul space. Due to the injury to his soul, Moronu couldn't stop it in time. The true dragon's soul didn't die. This was Moronu's first thought. However, he couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't track it at all. By the time he condensed his soul into a whole again, the true dragon's soul had already rushed out of his soul space. Chase. After Moronu condensed his soul again, He wanted to chase after the true dragon's soul. He definitely wouldn't let it go. However, at this moment, an extremely strong aura of death suddenly shrouded his heart. Roar! At the same time, an earth-shattering dragon's roar came from the front, shaking the void and causing the earth to sink. An extremely terrifying pressure came down from all directions, suppressing Murongyu's physical body to the point of almost exploding. Even his soul was shaken. This is Murongyu was shocked. This was because he saw that the 9 million-kilometer-long true dragon's body in the tomb had actually come to life. The terrifying dragon's aura came from the true dragon. Moreover, Murongyu saw an extremely huge dragon claw shattering the sky, tearing through billions of space-time, and fiercely slapping toward Murongyu. This was a true dragon at the Primal Chaos Ancestor Saint level, and a peak Primal Chaos Ancestor Saint at that. If this palm slapped down, not to mention that Murongyu's physical body had reached the level of a high-grade sacred artifact, even if it had reached the level of a supreme-grade sacred artifact, or even an Ancestor Saint level physical body, it would be slapped into powder. He would be slapped to death. Without any hesitation, Murongyu summoned the Hichu Luo Shu. At the same time, he wanted to rush into the Hichu Luo Shu. He would rather rush into the turbulent space than be slapped to death by the true dragon. However, during this process, he still summoned all kinds of treasures. He summoned the Yin-Yang Cauldron and even the supreme weapon, the purple light heavenly sieve pagoda, blocking above him to block the true dragon's attack. At the same time, Murongyu also formed the Akalanthus seal. Chapter 1507. Boom! The power of the supreme weapon, the purple radiance heavenly rhoda, was activated. Suddenly, a 5-colored holy light shot up into the sky, accompanied by a terrifying pressure. It shattered the sky and destroyed time and space. The void shattered, and a 5-colored purple light broke through, heading straight for the real dragon's dragon claw. At the same time, Murongyu's energy was depleted. However, he had already formed the Akalanthus seal earlier, so it did not affect the seal. However, without the support of energy, the Akalanthus seal was equivalent to an empty shell. However, the Yin-Yang Cauldron and the Hichu Luo Shu were not affected. This was because it did not require much energy just to drive them out. Boom! In a flash, the real dragon's enormous dragon claw had already slammed down on the purple radiance heavenly rhoda. After a deafening sound, the purple radiance heavenly rhoda was sent flying. It shattered endless time and space and disappeared into the distance. However, the real dragon's claw was successfully blocked. Perhaps it was because the real dragon was only being controlled by its remnant soul, so it could not unleash its full power. Otherwise, even with the purple radiance heavenly rhoda, Murongyu would not have been able to block the real dragon for a moment. Whoosh! Taking advantage of this moment, the Hichu Luo Shu rolled and wrapped around Murongyu, then sucked him in. Boom! Just as Murongyu entered the Hichu Luo Shu, the real dragon's claw slammed down again. It slammed heavily on the Hichu Luo Shu. In the Hichu Luo Shu, Murongyu spat out a large mouthful of blood with a pu sound. As for his fleshly body, which had reached the level of a high-grade sacred artifact, cracks had also appeared on it. In the end, it broke into pieces with a pa sound. It's over. Murongyu's heart was filled with an extremely strong aura of death. If the real dragon slammed down again, his shattered body would be completely annihilated. Even his soul would be annihilated. At that time, he would really be dead. However, miraculously, the aura of death in Murongyu's heart only appeared for a moment before it disappeared. Even the invisible pressure that enveloped his heart had disappeared without a trace. Plop! The sound of a heavy object falling to the ground came from outside. Even Murongyu, who was in Hichu Luo Shu, felt the air vibrate. With a sweep of his divine sense, Murongyu saw that the true dragon's corpse had somehow fallen to the ground. However, There was a look of unwillingness on its face as it looked at Muronyu. Its huge dragon eyes were wide open, as if it had died with its eyes wide open. Muronyu quickly realized what was going on. The true dragon was already dead, although part of its soul remained in the world. However, it could not control the true dragon's corpse, which contained enormous power. The reason why it had come back to life was that after the true dragon's soul had self-destructed, the remaining wisp of its soul had forcibly taken control of the true dragon's body and wanted to kill Muronyu with a single claw. However, this was the result of perishing together. The true dragon had never expected Muronyu to have a supreme weapon and be able to activate its power. Otherwise, it would have really killed Muronyu with a single claw and perished together with him. Hichu, collect the true dragon's corpse for me. Although Muronyu's body had been smashed into millions of pieces, his soul was still there, so it was not fatal. However, because his strength had been depleted, he could not control the recovery of his body for the time being. This true dragon was in existence at the peak of the Chaos Ancestor Saint level, so he did not want to give up this body. If he could refine it into his clone, he would definitely become even more powerful. Hichu immediately controlled the Hichu Luoshu to sweep it toward the true dragon's corpse that was 9 million miles long. At the same time, Muronyu was also rapidly devouring the power of the chaos through the Tree of Life in the Hichu Luoshu. On the other side, he was burning large patches of Chaos Saint veins to provide Hichu with the greatest assistance. Just as Hichu was sweeping toward the true dragon's corpse, a series of enormous auras broke through the void from all directions and rushed in. These were the supreme experts of the Dragon Clan in the Dragon Tomb. Although the battle between Muronyu and the true dragon had lasted for a very short time, it had caused a great commotion. In particular, when Muronyu had activated the power of the Violet Empyrean Pagoda, not only had the entire Dragon Tomb been enveloped in five-colored holy light and terrifying pressure, but the true Dragon Tomb had also been destroyed. Even the entire dragon world had been alarmed by the might of the supreme weapon. Some of the peerless experts of the Dragon Clan, who had been in hiding for many years, had also been alarmed. Suddenly, one by one, the powerhouses rushed out from their hiding places and flew towards the dragon graveyard. With their speed, it would not take long for them to appear in the Dragon Tomb. Murongyu's current situation was already very critical. If those old antiques were to join in, there was no way for him to escape at all. He could only wait for death. Muronyu was also aware of this, so he seized any opportunity to quickly recover his strength. In a flash, the true dragon's corpse had been swept into the Hichu Luoshu world. At the same time, several figures with terrifying auras appeared in the Dragon Tomb. With a swoosh, Hichu Luoshu had shrunk into a speck of dust that was invisible to the naked eye. Hichu's reaction was already extremely fast, but the time was still too short, and he was still discovered by a sharp-eyed true dragon expert. Without any hesitation, the true dragon expert reached out his hand and grabbed the He-Tu and the inscription of the Luo. Time precepts. Space precepts. At this moment, Muronyu, who had reformed his physical body, roared in his heart. He struck out all the power of time in his body, reversing the space-time around the void where he was. And he hid himself, combining the space precepts with the army character formula, and began to rapidly travel in the void into the distance. Bang! The true dragon expert's hand grabbed the void where Muronyu was. But the space-time had been reversed, and in fact, he did not catch Muronyu at all. Muronyu had already seized this opportunity to travel in the void. He had no choice. Hichu Luoshu could not be teleported, and now he could only escape like this. Swoosh! 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 Muronyu did not care about the situation in front of him, and just blindly flew forward at the fastest speed. Under such circumstances, it was better for him to be as far away from the Dragon Tomb as possible. As for the true dragon expert who had attacked, he quickly reacted when his hand rushed out of the reverse space-time. With a shake of his hand, he shattered the reverse space-time. At the same time, he stretched out his hand again to grab Muronyu. At the same time, the other true dragons also attacked. However, Murong Yu was extremely fast, and in just a short time, he had rushed out of their attack range. So, the true dragon experts spread their bodies and chased after Murong Yu. Although Murong Yu was fast, that was all he was. It was inevitable that he would leave behind a strong aura fluctuation in the void as he traveled. The true dragon experts followed these fluctuations and quickly chased after him. In the process, more and more true dragon experts joined the ranks of the true dragon experts chasing after Murong Yu. And most of them were Chaos Ancestor Saint experts. Although they did not dare to explode with great power in the dragon tomb, they did not dare to destroy it. But their speed was extremely fast, surpassing Murong Yu's current speed. The distance between them was getting shorter and shorter, and Murong Yu's sense of danger grew stronger. And this dangerous aura did not come from the true dragons in the dragon tomb. Murong Yu knew that he had a premonition of impending danger. It was most likely the old monsters of the dragon clan pressuring him. Once those people attacked, he would die without a doubt. Power! I need more power! Murong Yu roared in his heart, and with a thought, he swallowed the 5 Chaos Ancestral artifact he had obtained from the Dragon Tomb into the Chaos Furnace. Chaos Furnace, refine them all. Murong Yu went crazy and wanted to refine all 5 Chaos Ancestral artifacts at the same time. Moreover, these 5 Chaos Ancestral artifacts were of the highest quality. Chapter 1508. After breaking through 2 small realms in a row, Murong Yu's speed skyrocketed, instantly widening the distance between him and the numerous true dragon experts. However, this was only temporary. As long as Murong Yu did not escape the pursuit of the true dragon experts, he would not be able to escape danger. Moreover, these true dragon experts were not weak. Once they pursued him with all their strength, they would still close the distance between them and Murong Yu. Before he could use the Hichu Luo Shu, Murong Yu could only continue to raise his realm and maximize his strength to the highest possible level. After raising his realm by 2 small realms, Murong Yu's strength became even more powerful. Naturally, the power of the primal chaos furnace became more and more terrifying. A high-grade primal chaos ancestral artifact did not require Murong Yu's continuous effort to smelt it like before. The second primal chaos ancestral artifact was smelted. An incomparably large amount of power poured into Murong Yu's body. With a boom, Murong Yu, who had reached the peak of the 8th level of the Profound Sage Realm, finally broke through and reached the 9th level of the Profound Sage Realm. After Murong Yu's breakthrough, there was still a large amount of power from the primal chaos ancestral artifact that had not been consumed. Therefore, Murong Yu's realm once again skyrocketed at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the end, he directly reached the peak of the 9th level of the Profound Sage Realm. At this time, the distance between Murong Yu and the numerous true dragon experts was once again narrowed. If not for the true dragon experts having some scruples, Murong Yu would have been slapped to the ground by their power. Suddenly, Murong Yu, who was rapidly shuttling through the void, came to an abrupt halt. Following that, the many true dragon experts chasing after them abruptly discovered an aura that was more than 10 times stronger than before erupting from Murong Yu's body. It soared into the sky, straight to the 9 heavens. Whoosh! At the same time, Murong Yu's speed once again skyrocketed by 10 times. A black light flashed in the void and then disappeared from the spot, disappearing before everyone's eyes. First Order Ancient Saint. When they saw Murong Yu's realm, many true dragon experts' faces changed. When they discovered Murong Yu was only a 6th-stage Profound Sage. And in this short period of time, Murong Yu had crossed 3 minor realms and 1 major realm. It was fine if it was just a small realm, but some experts who had accumulated enough strength could break through a few small realms at once. However, how could it be so easy to break through a major realm? Murong Yu's breakthrough speed was unheard of. It was simply too shocking. Therefore, the true dragon experts were all stunned. Moreover, these true dragon experts had discovered a fact. Although Murong Yu was only a profound sage before, his strength and speed were comparable to Saint King's. Moreover, in the dragon graveyard where there were probably many true dragon experts, Murong Yu's unscrupulous behavior made it impossible for them to do anything to him in a short period of time. Now that Murong Yu's strength had broken through to the ancient saint realm, his strength was comparable to an ancestor saint. In the dragon graveyard, it was even more difficult for the primal chaos ancestor saints to do anything to him. In fact, Murong Yu's speed at this time had already surpassed many ancestor saints, especially when he was shuttling through the void. His movements were mysterious and unpredictable. The periphery of the dragon graveyard is in front of us. There are many large arrays and restrictions there, and he definitely can't break through and leave. We must take him down in this area. A primal chaos ancestor saint sent a voice transmission to the many true dragon experts with a gloomy expression, following which the true dragon powerhouses scattered one by one. Powerful energy continued to emanate from their bodies, enveloping the nearby area. The power of the true dragon experts joined together, forming a large area that quickly closed in on Murong Yu. Once Murong Yu was approached, he would definitely not be able to escape. If they were not in the dragon graveyard, Murong Yu would have been taken down long ago. In a flash, they had already approached the periphery of the dragon graveyard, which was the place covered by countless arrays and restrictions. At this time, the true dragon experts had already formed a fan shape, enveloping the world. Only the side, sealed by the arrays and restrictions, was left for Murong Yu. At this time, the true dragon experts were no longer in a hurry. They just looked at Murong Yu with cold eyes. In particular, the primal chaos ancestor saints were even more murderous. So many primal chaos ancestor saints were chasing after a profound sage and an ancient saint, but they could not do anything to the other party. If this matter were to spread, the dragon clan would be laughed to death by others. They would not have the face to continue living in the saints' world. If I take down this bastard, I must ruthlessly torture him. The true dragon experts looked at Murong Yu with ferocious expressions, already thinking about how to torture Murong Yu. What they did not know was that at this time, Murong Yu did not look like he was trapped in a desperate situation. On the contrary, he had a smile on his face. Arrays and restrictions, the heavens are really helping me. Seeing the layers of arrays and restrictions in front of him, Murong Yu could not help but laugh in his heart. If you asked him what he was the least afraid of, he could definitely tell you with certainty that it was arrays and restrictions. No matter what level of sage he was facing, even if the other party was just an ordinary sage, Murong Yu might fail miserably. But if it was arrays and restrictions, Murong Yu would definitely not fail miserably, because arrays and restrictions had no effect on him at all. Now, Murong Yu saw the arrays and restrictions in front of him. There were probably hundreds of millions of them. These were all natural barriers. They could help Murong Yu shake off the true dragon experts who were chasing after him. As a result, Murong Yu charged into the hundreds of millions of arrays and restrictions without any hesitation. Immediately, layers of ripples appeared in the area covered by arrays and restrictions, and then there was no more. Murong Yu seemed to have entered a place where no one could stop him. He passed through the hundreds of millions of arrays and restrictions like he was taking a stroll in the park and appeared outside the dragon's tomb. No one knew whether it was intentional or not, but after passing through the arrays and restrictions, Murong Yu's originally hidden figure suddenly flashed and was completely exposed before the true dragon experts. Then Murong Yu concealed himself again and passed through the void, finally disappearing before the true dragon experts. Dumbfounded, when they saw Murong Yu's figure appear outside, all of the true dragon experts were stunned. How did he pass through these arrays and restrictions? This is impossible. This can't be real. Even though they saw it with their own eyes, many true dragon experts dared not believe it was real, because that was something that would never happen. Could it be that these restrictions and arrays have lost their power? Otherwise, how could he leave? Countless true dragon experts had the same thought in their minds. Some of the true dragons immediately took action. Suddenly, Beams of holy light flew across the void. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, it violently slammed into the layers of formations and restrictions. Boom, boom, boom. As soon as they came into contact with the arrays and restrictions were triggered. As a result, streaks of different colored holy light soared into the sky, and a terrifying power erupted. Like a raging wave, it swept towards those who had triggered the formations and restrictions. Immediately, all the true dragon experts were stunned, because the result was the complete opposite. If the primal chaos ancestor saint hadn't intervened and captured those who had triggered the formations and restrictions in time, those people would probably have been killed. That bastard escaped just like that. The true dragon experts looked at Murong Yu, who had disappeared and were still sulking. These arrays and restrictions were a powerful barrier that protected the dragon graveyard. But today, they had become an obstacle to them. This had to make them unhappy. These arrays and restrictions had been added by the Dragon Clan for countless years. Not to mention the Chaos Ancestor Sage. Even an honorable sage would not be able to escape. But Murong Yu had escaped. Continue to hunt him down. Although the true dragon experts were furious, they reacted quickly. One by one, they left the dragon graveyard through the exit and chased after Murong Yu. After such a delay, Murong Yu's shadow was nowhere to be seen. Even if the Dragon Clan's almighty and peerless experts came, it was useless. They could not find Murong Yu at all. Some people guessed that Murong Yu had left the dragon graveyard or hidden in some corner of the Dragon Clan's world. But Murong Yu's concealment ability was too strong. They could not find him at all. After these things happened, the Dragon Clan's people were no longer sure where Murong Yu came in. Left with no choice, the Dragon Clan could only start to arrest Murong Yu in the entire Dragon Clan's world. In a short time, Murong Yu's portrait spread in the Dragon Clan's world. Murong Yu became famous in the Dragon Clan's world. He was remembered by all the Dragon Clan's experts, and all of them wanted to kill Murong Yu. After the arrest warrant was issued, countless Dragon Clan's experts began to search the Dragon Clan's world. But there was still no trace of Murong Yu. Murong Yu seemed to have never appeared in the Dragon Clan's world. Then, where was Murong Yu? Was he still in the Dragon Clan's world? Or had he left the Dragon Clan's world and returned to the Saint's world? Murong Yu did not return to the Saint's world, nor did he return to the God's world or the Immortal's world. He was still in the Dragon Clan's world, and he had returned to the Dragon Clan's graveyard. The so-called most dangerous place was also the safest place. Therefore, Murong Yu returned to the Dragon Clan's graveyard again. But after learning his lesson, he hid at the edge of the Dragon Clan's graveyard this time. Once he found something wrong, he could immediately pass through the layers of formations and restrictions and escape. In fact, Murong Yu did not want to stay in the Dragon Clan's world any longer. But there was no other way. Hichu Luoshu could not teleport, and he could not directly teleport back to the God's world or the Immortal's world. He could only find an opportunity to leave in the Dragon Clan's world. Chapter 1509. In the world of dragons, Hichu Luoshu could not be teleported. Moreover, when Murong Yu returned to the dragon graveyard, he discovered that he could not go back through the passage he came in. In other words, the passage was only one way. Perhaps it was a two-way passage, but Murong Yu could not find a way to enter the passage. The dragon-shaped key was useless. Therefore, Murong Yu wanted to leave the world of dragons and return to the Saint's world. Then, he could only go through the world of dragons and the Saint's world. However, Murong Yu did not know where the exits were. He needed to find out. Once he showed himself, he would become the enemy of the entire world. The entire Dragon Clan would not show mercy. Moreover, it was obvious that the exits of the world of dragons were heavily guarded. With Murong Yu's current strength, he could not even get close, let alone force his way out. Therefore, there was only one path for Murong Yu: increase his strength. He had to increase his strength as much as possible. Now, Murong Yu still had 3 Chaos Ancestral artifacts. If he could smelt all 3 of them, he could increase his strength by at least 5 minor realms. In other words, Moron, you could reach the 5th level of Ancient Sage, or perhaps the 6th level. However, it would be useless even if he reached the peak of Ancient Sage. With Murongyu's strength that was 2 major realms higher, he could only suppress a peak Ancestral Sage. However, he was facing the entire Dragon Clan, a Chaos Ancestral Sage true dragon. Therefore, what Morongyu needed to do now was to refine a clone. As long as he refined the Chaos Ancestral Sage true dragon's body into his clone, Morongyu would be equivalent to reaching the Chaos Ancestral Sage true dragon realm. At the very least, Morongyu could become a true dragon and walk around the world of dragons without being discovered. In the Hichu Luoshu world, the 9 million-mile-long body of the true dragon stretched across the world, exuding an extremely terrifying pressure. It suppressed the surrounding space of the Hitu and Luoshu worlds, causing layers of ripples to constantly appear and even shatter. And this was because the pressure of the true dragon had been suppressed. Otherwise, the Hichu Luoshu world would not be able to withstand it. In fact, all the true dragon corpses in the dragon graveyard had been sealed before they were buried, suppressing part of their aura. Otherwise, their tombs wouldn't be able to withstand their pressure and would eventually collapse. If not for this, with Morongyu's strength as a profound sage, he would not have been able to approach the true dragon's corpse. However, now that Morongyu had improved, Hichu Luoshu's power had also improved. In Hichu Luoshu, Morongyu could use Hichu Luoshu's ability to completely suppress the corpse of a true dragon. Now, all that was left was for him to refine the true dragon's corpse. If you want to refine the true dragon's body into your own body, you must separate a part of your soul and perfectly merge it with the true dragon's body. Only then would he be able to truly control the body of a true dragon. And because it's my own soul, it will be directly under my control. Morongyu pondered in his heart. In his spiritual space, his soul had already started to move. Soul separation was not a problem for Morongyu, a soul sage. But just separating a part of the soul was not enough. That part of the soul needed to have its own life and consciousness. In other words, that part of the soul was equivalent to an independent soul. Time acceleration. With a thought from Morongyu, Hichu Luoshu began to accelerate time. At the same time, Morongyu's soul was neatly divided into 2 parts from head to toe, as if it had been cut by a knife. Divided into 2. Even if it was only an active separation, the sharp pain of the separation almost made Morongyu faint. However, Morongyu gritted his teeth and endured it. The soul pool began to riot violently. Streams of soul power were continuously devoured by the 2 separated souls like torrents and blasted into their bodies. With the support of these soul power, the 2 separated souls began to recover rapidly. During this process, Morongyu also unleashed a vast amount of chaotic power that drowned the true dragon's body that was 9 million miles long. This true dragon's body was too unfamiliar. Before refining it, he had to nourish it with his own power. Only in this way could it be easier to refine it. Time continued to pass. Morongyu's soul power was extremely powerful and continuously surged into the 2 souls. Soon, the 2 separated souls condensed into 2 complete souls. However, at this moment, Morongyu furrowed his brows. Although the 2 souls seemed to be independent, Morongyu knew that Morongyu was not aware of it. However, Morongyu knew that the 2 souls hadn't been separated at all. With a single thought, the 2 souls would fuse back into one. 2 souls, 1 consciousness. Actually, it was just a simple separation. I have to nourish a new consciousness. Morongyu pondered. Therefore, Morongyu slowly withdrew the consciousness of 1 soul, leaving behind an extremely small portion to nourish the new consciousness. This is equivalent to refining a weapon. I have to slowly let it breed a weapon spirit. Morongyu knew that this kind of thing could not be rushed. Therefore, he allowed the soul to slowly breed an independent consciousness. As for him, he entered a state of cultivation. He consolidated his new realm, power, and cultivated battle skills. While Morongyu was cultivating, The Dragon Clan's world of dragons became more and more wanted. It was just that they had not been able to find Murong Yu's whereabouts. In the Holy World, the hunt for Murong Yu became more and more intense. Even Murong Yu's identity had been exposed. Murong Yu was an ascender from a god realm. When he was in the god realm, he had once ruined the plan of the Human Clan Alliance. The Human Clan Alliance issued a kill order for Murong Yu. Kill without mercy. In addition, the Human Clan Alliance began to track down the people around Murong Yu. However, because Murong Yu is the overlord of the god realm, they could not pry into any information about the god realm. Therefore, they could not find out about the existence of Yu Mengqing and Shengzhen for the time being. However, as the saying goes, paper cannot hide fire. Yu Mengqing and Shengzhen's identity as disciples would be exposed one day. Moreover, with the Human Clan Alliance's power, it would not take long. The Human Clan Alliance was the Human Clan Alliance of the Holy World, led by the 10 Great Holy Lands. It was a force to fight against the Saint Clan and the Demon Clan. It could be said to be one of the strongest forces in the Holy World. It was an overlord-level existence in the Human Clan. No one dared to offend it. Every force had to listen to the Human Clan Alliance's orders. Otherwise, they would be destroyed. When the Human Clan Alliance issued a kill order for Murong Yu, the entire Human Clan was in an uproar. As for the Human Clan Alliance's attempt to resurrect Desolation to fight against the Saint Clan, other than a few high-level figures, no one else knew. Therefore, many people in the Holy World were quite curious about what Murong Yu had done to ruin the Human Clan Alliance's plan. They were actually scared into issuing a kill order. Murong Yu was already an enemy of the entire world, and the current situation was even more dangerous. However, when the Human Clan Alliance issued the kill order, the Infernal Order issued a statement. Murong Yu was a disciple of the Infernal Order. Although it was only a few words, it was enough to express the Infernal Order's position. They would not give up on Murong Yu. However, the Infernal Order was very few in number, and their influence in the Human Clan Alliance was limited. Perhaps some people would give the Infernal Order face and not find trouble with Murong Yu, but the majority of people wanted to kill Murong Yu. As for the Human Clan Alliance's pursuit of Murong Yu, the Saint Clan was surprisingly friendly. Some Saint Clans even extended an olive branch to Murong Yu, inviting Murong Yu to join their race. For example, the Angel race, the Fiend race, and so on issued this statement almost at the same time. The Human Clan Alliance's pursuit of a small profound sage had caused an uproar. Even a fool knew how important it was that Murong Yu had destroyed the Human Clan Alliance's plan. The more this was the case, the more the Saint Clan wanted to know what the Human Clan's plan was. Some people even guessed that the Human Clan had some plans against the Saint Clan. If there was a first plan, there might be a second one. In order to not be caught off guard, they had to obtain as much information as possible. If they could recruit Murong Yu, they would naturally be able to easily learn of the Human Clan Alliance's plan. As for the Human Clan Alliance, only the Saint Clan had some ideas. Therefore, they issued a kill order for Murong Yu. The wind was blowing and the clouds were moving. However, Murong Yu, the instigator of all this, was completely unaware of it. At this time, he had been in Hichu Luoshu for an unknown number of years. In Murong Yu's soul space, 2 identical soul individuals were sitting opposite each other. Suddenly, the 2 opened their eyes at the same time and looked at themselves opposite them. One of the soul individuals slowly stood up and said to the other soul, "Hello, main body." It was a soul that looked exactly like Murong Yu. Even its demeanor was the same. It was Murong Yu's soul clone. However, although it looked the same on the surface, there were some differences if one looked carefully. The aura was different. Although the aura of the soul was somewhat similar to Murong Yu's, there was actually a huge difference. Even if a mortal saw it, they wouldn't think that the 2 were the same person. A smile appeared on Murong Yu's face. "Doppelganger, you could take control of the true dragon's corpse now. I'm looking forward to the day you succeed." Murong Yu's soul clone also smiled. "I'm also looking forward to it." At the same time, before his voice fell, Murong Yu's soul clone flickered and disappeared from Murong Yu's soul space. When it reappeared, it was already in front of the huge dragon head of the primal chaos ancestor sage level true dragon. Then, without any hesitation, it rushed into the dragon head. Chapter 15:10. The true dragon had been a primal chaos ancestor saint when he was alive, and had even been one of the top primal chaos ancestor saints. However, he was not a soul saint, and his soul space was not large. He did not even have a soul pond. However, the true dragon's soul space was tens of thousands of kilometers in size. When Murong Yu's soul doppelganger rushed into the true dragon's soul space, he saw that the entire space was empty. There wasn't a single thing in sight. Boom! As soon as Murong Yu's soul clone entered the true dragon's soul space, a vast power descended from the sky and fiercely suppressed Murong Yu's soul clone. This was the suppression of the true dragon's physical body. It suppressed any external soul power and prevented these souls from seizing his body. However, Murong Yu had long known that this would happen. Therefore, he was very calm and did not panic at all as he stood in place, allowing the pressure to press down on him from all directions. Seal of Akala. Because it was Murong Yu's soul that had separated from his body, his soul clone knew all of his cultivation methods, battle skills, and even memories. Therefore, the Akalanthus seal was used by his soul clone. In the blink of an eye, an enormous power shield appeared on the surface of Murong Yu's soul clone, firmly protecting him. He wanted to resist the true dragon's body suppression. Rumble. The moment the shield was erected, an enormous suppression came down. The impact caused the shield of Murong Yu's soul clone to tremble violently, erupting with terrifying holy light. However, the shield did not shatter. There were two reasons for this. One was that Murong Yu was now much stronger than before. The other was that the true dragon's body did not erupt with much power. One must know that Murong Yu had been using his power to nourish the true dragon's body during this time. Compared to before, the true dragon's body was now quite gentle, and the suppression was not as strong. This was because the true dragon's body did not resist Murong Yu's soul as much. However, the suppression was still there. Therefore, Murong Yu's soul doppelganger had to endure the suppression of the true dragon's body with the unmovable Bright King seal. At the same time, his soul force spread out and wrapped around the true dragon's body, slowly refining it. To refine a clone, one had to have complete control over the body and make the soul and the body fuse together. Time continued to accelerate. As time passed, Murong Yu's soul clone gradually merged with the true dragon's body. From the beginning, there was only a little fusion, but later on, most of the fusion. Rumble. Suddenly, the true dragon's body violently shook. At the same time, Murong Yu's soul doppelganger trembled violently as an enormous amount of information gushed in like a torrent. In an instant, it tore Murong Yu's soul doppelganger into pieces. In an instant, terrifying scenes appeared in Murong Yu's mind. Rumble. Somewhere in the space of an unknown location, there were countless experts moving about. Waves of incomparably terrifying energy burst out continuously, engulfing everything in its path. Everywhere they passed, large swaths of the void shattered. True dragon experts, phoenix experts, human experts, monster experts. Murong Yu didn't need to look at all to know how many experts from various races had been fighting. These were all supreme experts, at least top existences among the Chaos Ancestor Saints. There were even supreme existences. Roar. All of a sudden, an earth-shattering dragon's roar came from afar, shaking large swaths of the void and shattering it. Then, a golden dragon broke through hundreds of millions of space-time and swiftly arrived from afar, viciously attacking one of the human experts. Oof. At this moment, a soft snort suddenly sounded in Murong Yu's ears. Murong Yu's heart trembled. Then he saw an incomparably huge finger shatter the void. With lightning speed, the finger tapped on the head of the true dragon that was breaking through the void. Murong Yu heard a poof, as something in the true dragon's head seemed to shatter. Then, his vision turned black and his consciousness dissipated. True Martial Supreme. Before completely losing consciousness, Murong Yu heard an indignant roar. Then, there was no then. These were the memories that Murong Yu received from the true dragon's body. The golden dragon that Murong Yu saw was the true dragon in front of him. And the one who killed the true dragon was the supreme of the human race, True Martial Supreme. How strong was a supreme? Murong Yu didn't know. But he killed a true dragon expert at the peak of the Chaos Ancestor Saint Realm with a single finger. The true dragon expert didn't even have time to react. One could only imagine how terrifying a supreme strength was. However, Murong Yu was more curious about what had happened. Was it a war between the 10,000 races? But although he was curious, there was nothing he could do, because the true dragon only gave him a few memories. Only the memories before his death remained. Actually, this was very normal. After all, memories always existed in the soul. The physical body originally didn't have memories. The true dragon's physical body actually had these memories. It must be that the true dragon had a deep memory of that scene. It was deeply imprinted in his heart, and even his physical body was affected. He was indignant. True Martial Supreme. Murong Yu's face darkened slightly. Murong Yu refined the corpse of the true dragon, and this true dragon was killed by True Martial Supreme. Is there anything wrong? Murong Yu didn't know why, but he suddenly felt a trace of pressure in his heart. It was pressure from True Martial Supreme. Forget it. If I don't refine a clone, I won't even be able to leave the Dragon Clan's world. As for True Martial Supreme, that's a matter for later. Anyway, it's not a burden to have too many debts. Murong Yu thought to himself. Now, that Murong Yu had enemies all over the world, he didn't mind having a few more enemies. Furthermore, a supreme being level powerhouse wouldn't attack him now. Roar! At that moment, Murong Yu's soul clone suddenly let out an earth-shattering dragon roar. Then, an enormous dragon's aura filled the entire Hichu Luoshu world. Murong Yu's soul clone had completely taken control of the true dragon's body, becoming Murong Yu's clone. At that moment, the 9 million kilometer-long true dragon's body floated between heaven and earth, emitting a powerful aura like a vast ocean. This was the natural dragon's aura of a true dragon expert. The purer the Dragon Clan's bloodline, the stronger the dragon's aura. For example, Murong Yu's clone was a giant golden dragon. The Dragon Clan's bloodline was extremely pure, so the dragon's aura was much stronger than the average true dragon expert. Even if Murong Yu walked in the Dragon Clan's world now, no one would suspect that he was from a different race. Instead, he was a true dragon expert with a high-grade bloodline. However, what made Murong Yu depressed was that although his clone's cultivation was slightly higher than his main body's, it was still only at the Saint Ruler realm. He didn't know if it was because his soul wasn't of a high enough level, but his clone was only at the Saint Ruler realm. It hadn't even reached the Ancestor Sage realm. However, the physical body of a true dragon expert was quite strong. Even if it was just the strength of the physical body, it could definitely fight against an Ancestor Sage realm expert. It was about the same strength as Murong Yu's original body. Moreover, Murong Yu's clone could also use soul attacks, so it was also a soul sage. This made Murong Yu rather gratified. Coupled with a powerful physical body, Murong Yu's clone could sweep away any Ancestor Sage realm expert. However, the clone didn't know any of the words in the 9 syllables mantra that Murong Yu had learned. It couldn't even use any of the abilities in these 9 syllables. In other words, Murong Yu's clone couldn't turn invisible, travel through the void, and didn't know the rules of time and space. This was actually within Murong Yu's expectations. After all, the 9 syllables mantra wasn't something that anyone could cultivate. Moreover, it could only be cultivated by one person. If one wanted to cultivate the 9 syllables mantra, then the person who cultivated the 9 syllables mantra before had to die, or directly seize the 9 syllables mantra. And although the true dragon was Murong Yu's clone, it wasn't his original body after all, so it couldn't be shared. However, although the clone couldn't use these battle skills and cultivation methods. Still, Muronyu was satisfied. As long as he continued to cultivate, his realm would rapidly improve. He believed that it wouldn't take long for him to return to his original realm as a golden dragon. Hichu had cultivated to the peak of the primal chaos ancestor sage realm, and coupled with the true dragon body of a peak primal chaos ancestor sage realm expert, Muronyu's clone's breakthrough was much faster than Muronyu's original body. Most importantly, the clone didn't need a large amount of energy to break through like Muronyu's original body. The clone is equivalent to a pure dragon. Let's give a name first. Muronyu's heart skipped a beat as he pondered. All dragons had the surname Long. However, Muronyu didn't want his clone to change its surname. The surname Murong was his brand and couldn't be changed. The clone was equivalent to Murongyu's original body. In that case, I'll call it Murong Dragon. When I'm in the Dragon Clan, I can call it Long Rongmu instead. Although it's a little strange, it's just a temporary name. After deciding on the name of his clone, Murongyu left Hichu Luoshu and appeared in the Dragon Graveyard. Murongyu wanted to continue to stay in the Dragon Graveyard and continue to collect true dragon souls. However, there were Dragon Clan experts constantly patrolling the Dragon Graveyard. If he accidentally made any noise, Murongyu would be discovered. Therefore, he pondered for a while and decided to leave the Dragon Graveyard first and find the passage to leave the Dragon Clan world first. There would be plenty of opportunities to enter in the future. Immediately, Muronyu's clone cultivated in Hichu Luoshu, while Murongyu hid himself and crossed the Dragon Graveyard's formation and restriction as if no one was around. He swaggered out of the Dragon Graveyard and entered the Dragon Clan world. Chapter 1511. The Dragon Clan's world was an independent space in the Holy World. But this space could be said to be a world, even several times larger than the Divine World. This was discovered by Murongyu after walking in the Dragon Clan's world for the past few days. Moreover, unlike the legends where the Dragon Clan was rare, the true dragons in the Dragon Clan's world were as numerous as the sand in the Ganges. This greatly subverted Murongyu's understanding of the Dragon Clan. Murongyu guessed that the number of true dragons here might not be as many as the human clan, but at least more than a third of the human clan. One must know that in the Holy World, the human clan and the demon clan were the most numerous. In fact, the human clan's population even exceeded the demon clans, and the dragon clan accounted for 1/3 of the human clan's population, which could be said to be the third largest race in the Holy World. If it were the other races, they probably wouldn't have so many people. Of course, this was only Murongyu's current understanding. Before he knew about the Dragon Clan, he thought that there were only a few people in the Dragon Clan who knew that the other races in the Holy World didn't have a race like the Dragon Clan. However, Murongyu wasn't too shocked by the sheer number. What shocked him was that there were especially many powerhouses in the Dragon Clan. In the Human Clan and the Demon Clan, although there were many people in these two races, the most were those in the ordinary Saint, Almighty, and Undying realm. And the number of people who reached the imperishable realm or higher kept decreasing. But the Dragon Clan was different. After walking in the Dragon Clan's world for a few days, Murongyu didn't encounter many ordinary true dragons in the Saint realm at all. In fact, there were very few true dragons in the Great Saint realm, and the most were true dragons in the Undying realm and Undying realm. This was because any true dragon powerhouse was born as an ordinary saint, and once they reached adulthood, then they would reach the Undying realm. In fact, they didn't even need to cultivate during this process. And in the Holy World, many people were born as quasi-saint. Only those whose parents had extremely high realms, their children would have higher realms after birth. And those quasi-saint powerhouses wouldn't constantly increase their realms as they grew. They needed to cultivate by themselves, not only requiring large amounts of resources, but also talent. As for the dragon race, they didn't need talent. As long as they reached adulthood, they could reach the Undying realm. Those with a little bit of talent could reach the imperishable stage, the profound sage stage, or even higher. In terms of comprehensive strength, the dragon clan was definitely stronger than the human clan. Furthermore, Moronyu also knew that there were supreme being experts in the dragon clan. The dragon race is only one of the countless races of the sacred race. If just the dragon race alone is so terrifying, then what about the other races of the sacred race? How can the human race resist the sacred race with their strength? After knowing the strength of the dragon clan, Moronyu could not help but have a hint of doubt in his heart. The two supremes of the human race and the 10 holy lands. However, Moronyu now believed that he had a good understanding of the strength of the human race. The human race could barely suppress the dragon race, but it was impossible for them to suppress the entire sacred race. Are we just going to rely on supreme, true martial, and supreme peerless? Moronyu was puzzled. However, he quickly rejected this idea. The dragon clan had a supreme being expert, and the other races of the sacred race would definitely have supreme beings as well. At this level, the two races were neck and neck, and the human race might even be a little weaker. Below the supreme being level, the human race was definitely inferior to the sacred race. Could it be that the human race still has hidden strength? Moronyu thought for a while, but in the end, he shook his head and smiled. I'm not worried about this. Right now, whether it's the dragon race or the human race, they can't wait for me to die. It's better to quickly find the passage to leave the dragon world. During the time he was walking in the dragon world, Moronyu did not hear about the passage at all. Although many true dragon experts wanted to leave the dragon world to explore the sacred world, they could not leave the dragon world at all. There was only one possibility for this situation. The dragon world had not been in contact with the outside world for many years. Moreover, the passage was deliberately sealed, so ordinary true dragons did not know about it all. Although he did not know the reason, Moronyu did not care what the reason was. He just needed to find the passage. However, it was impossible to obtain the existence of the passage through ordinary channels, so he could only know about it from the large forces. The Abyss City was the headquarters of the Abyss Dragon family, and was one of the 10 largest cities in the dragon world. The Abyss Dragon family was naturally one of the 10 largest families of the dragon clan, and their power was extremely terrifying. Although the dragon clan was a big whole, it was formed by many clans of different sizes. The stronger the family, the more resources they would get. The more resources they had, the stronger the family. This was an endless cycle. However, no matter how powerful a family was, there would be a day when it would decline. Therefore, every large family would regularly recruit disciples from small families. This year was the time for the Abyss Dragon family to recruit disciples. Even before the time was up, the Abyss City was already packed with people. They were all true dragon experts who came from all over the dragon world to participate in the examination. The lowest was the imperishable stage, and there were even primal chaos ancestor sages. Moronyu, no, it should be Moron the dragon, had also arrived at the Abyss City. During this period of time, Moronyu had been using the identity of Long Rongmu in the dragon world. His original body had entered Hichu Luoshu, and Hichu Luoshu had transformed into an invisible particle that lay on Long Rongmu's body. Long Rongmu was a pure dragon clan member, so no one noticed that he was of a different race. Moronyu didn't come to the Abyss City to join the Abyss Dragon family. Instead, he heard that every year, those who performed well in the examination would have the opportunity to leave the dragon world and train in the holy world. This was a great opportunity for him to leave the dragon world. Moreover, once he discovered the passage, Moronyu would be able to enter and exit the dragon world as he wished in the future. As one of the 10 largest families in the dragon world, the Abyss Dragon family was not only powerful, but they also had many disciples. Just like the true martial sacred hall in the holy world. Every time they recruited disciples, there would be as many as 100,000. Most of them were true dragon experts in the imperishable realm, profound sage realm, and ancient sage realm. Although they could recruit experts in the Sage Ruler Realm, Ancestor Sage Realm, and Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage Realm, there weren't many of them. This was because there weren't many people who had reached these three realms. In particular, there were even fewer experts in the Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage Realm. After all, although there were many true dragons in the dragon world, there were only a few Primal Chaos Ancestor Sages, and they were divided among various forces. Therefore, every time the Abyss Dragon family recruited disciples, it was already very good if they could recruit experts in the Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage Realm. The top three in each of the six realms, Imperishable Realm, Profound Sage Realm, Ancient Sage Realm, Sage Ruler Realm, Ancestor Sage Realm, and Primal Chaos Realm, were qualified to train in the Holy World. Moreover, the top three in each realm would be heavily nurtured by the Abyss Dragon family. Murong, you wanted to fight for the top three spots. Kid, you want to join the Abyss Dragon family with your strength? Murong, you had just approached the square when a cold and disdainful voice sounded in his ears. Murong, you frowned slightly and turned to look at the person who spoke. It was the same handsome, arrogant-looking young man in his mid-20s. At this moment, he was looking at the ordinary-looking young man that Murong Yu had transformed into with disdain. Murong Yu was a little unhappy. He had never seen this man before, so why did this guy seem to have a problem with him? Kid, hand over an ancestral artifact, and I guarantee that you can join the Abyss Dragon family, the arrogant young man said again. Murong Yu came to a realization, and then he sneered. Are you from the Abyss Dragon family? The arrogant young man shook his head. Do you see my strength? Peak Sage Ruler Realm, Half-Step Ancestor Sage Realm. If you give me an ancestral artifact, I guarantee that you can survive in the arena. If you have 2 ancestral artifacts, I guarantee that you can enter the top 100. If you have enough ancestral artifacts, I guarantee that you can enter the top 3. Murong Yu couldn't help but sneer at the young man's words. Murong Yu's face was full of disdain. Admittedly, the young man was very strong, but whether he could enter the top 10 was still a question, let alone guarantee that Murong Yu would enter the top 10. One had to know that there were definitely geniuses in the Dragon Clan who could fight above their level. A half-step ancestor Sage Realm cultivator might be able to join the Abyss Dragon family, but he definitely wouldn't be able to enter the top 3. This was because one of the top 3 spots had already been reserved by Murong Yu. Kid, are you sure you don't want to hand it over? The arrogant young man looked angry. Do you think I'll get it to you for free? Murong Yu couldn't be bothered to deal with this idiot. Fine, you'll regret it. The young man sneered bitterly and then left. In the following time, Murong Yu saw this fool go around trying to persuade others. Murong Yu found that there were actually people who handed over ancestral artifacts to the arrogant young man. From this, it could be seen how tempting the Abyss Dragon Clan was to ordinary true dragons. These people were willing to use ancestral artifacts as the price to join the Abyss Dragon Clan, and they were willing to do whatever it took. There are no rules. As long as you persevere to the top 1,000, you can join the Abyss Dragon Clan. Now all of you come in. Not long after, an indifferent voice sounded in Murong Yu's ears. Then, Murong Yu felt a suction force acting on him. Murong Yu didn't resist and was immediately sucked in by the suction force. This was an independent space. Murong Yu swept his gaze across his surroundings and discovered that over 100,000 people had entered. 100,000 people fighting for the top 1,000 spots. Roar, roar, roar. Just as Murong Yu was surveying his surroundings, a series of earth-shattering dragon roars resounded in the air. Waves after waves of dragons might burst out, filling the entire independent space. As far as the eye could see, there were true dragons that were more than one. 5 million miles long. Only in the form of a true dragon could a true dragon unleash its greatest power. Chapter 15:12. Dragon City was the largest city in the Dragon Clan's world. Even several Abyss cities could not compare to Dragon City. He could not see the end of it with a single glance. There were billions of true dragon experts inside, so many that he could not even count them. Muronyu followed some experts from the Abyss Dragon family through the teleportation array and appeared in Dragon City. Apart from the top three from the Imperishable Realm to the Primal Chaos Ancestor Saint Realm, the Abyss Dragon family also had 3 peerless experts. The more Muronyu came into contact with the Primal Chaos Ancestor, the deeper his understanding of the Primal Chaos Ancestor became. Aside from rulers and sovereigns, the Chaotic Ancestor Saint was the strongest expert in the Saint's world. Therefore, experts at the Primal Chaos Ancestor Saint realm were different from ordinary saints. Although there were fewer ancestral sages and sage kings than ancient sages and lower sages, there were still many sage kings. However, in the entire saint's world, there were not many saints of these 2 levels. Of course, there were fewer Primal Chaos Ancestral Saints than there were Ancestral Saints. The reason why the Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage was said to be different from ordinary sages was because the Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage's strength was extremely difficult to raise. Although there weren't many Ancestor Sages, there were still plenty of Ancestor Sages in the 9th Order Ancestor Sage realm. However, most of the Primal Chaos Ancestral Saints were rank 1 Primal Chaos Ancestral Saints, and very few had reached the rank 9 Primal Chaos Ancestral Saints. As for those Primal Chaos Ancestral Saints who were half a step into the Supremacy stage, they were even rarer. It was the same for the dragons. The Abyssal Dragon clan was one of the strongest clans in the dragon race, but the 3 peerless experts escorting Muronyu and the others were only at the 7th or 8th level of the Chaos Ancestor realm. One had to know that Muronyu and the others were definitely heavily nurtured by the Abyss Dragon family. The Abyss Dragon family wouldn't let anything happen to them. In fact, it wasn't just the Abyss Dragon clan. The 10 Great Dragon clans, like the Flame Dragon clan, were the same. This time, there was no 9th level Chaotic Ancestor Sage among the peerless experts accompanying them. 180 top 3 rankers and 30 peerless experts from the 10 great clans were gathered in a plaza. At this time, all the true dragon experts were looking at the level 8 Ancestor Sage of the Abyss Dragon family with excitement. This was because the Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage was about to announce where they were going to train. Every time the 10 great clans recruited disciples, they would head out to the holy world to temper themselves. However, the training ground were different every time. Therefore, Muronyu and the others did not know where they were going beforehand. This time, our first stop is the Phoenix clan. The expert from the Abyss Dragon clan didn't keep them in suspense and went straight to the point. Phoenix clan, upon hearing this, Muronyu's heart couldn't help but twitch violently. He was no stranger to the Phoenixes. The Phoenix clan was as powerful as the Dragon clan. Most importantly, Zhao Jiqing was still in the Phoenix clan. Moreover, because of his relationship with Zhao Jiqing, Muronyu had been specially taken care of by the Phoenixes before. He was not allowed to approach the Phoenixes' territory, or he would be killed immediately. Although Muronyu was unwilling, there was nothing he could do. After all, he was still too weak. Therefore, although he missed Zhao Jiqing very much, he endured it and did not rush over rashly. However, just because he didn't go over didn't mean that he didn't miss Zhao Jiqing. Therefore, Muronyu was immediately excited when he heard that they were going to the Phoenix clan. Not only could he see Zhao Jiqing, but he could also take the opportunity to find out about the Phoenix clan's strength. However, Muronyu wasn't optimistic. After witnessing the strength of the Dragon clan, Muronyu guessed that the Phoenix clan was definitely not simple either. If the Phoenix clan was as powerful as the Dragon clan, Muronyu definitely wouldn't be able to contend against the Phoenix clan in a short period of time. If they waited until Muronyu became an utmost exalt to bring Zhao Jiqing back, it would be too late. Who knew if the Phoenix clan would do something extreme? Apart from training, you have another objective for going to the Phoenix clan this time. The expert from the Abyss Dragon clan glanced at everyone and said calmly. Everyone looked at the peerless expert with curiosity on their faces. You are all outstanding talents of your generation, the geniuses of our Dragon clan. The Dragon clan still needs you to be strong. Now, we'll give you a mission. Take this opportunity to get in touch with the women of the Phoenix clan. It's best if you can abduct a few of them back. The 180 people, including Murongyu, looked at each other in dismay. They didn't know what this peerless expert meant by that. The descendants of the Dragon Clan and the Phoenix Clan have purer bloodlines. They might even mutate and surpass the bloodlines of the Dragon Clan or the Phoenix Clan. Therefore, your mission is to bring back a woman of the Phoenix Clan. Of course, the woman of the Phoenix Clan you bring back must be willing. So that's how it is. Murongyu and the others were enlightened. At this moment, an expert from the Flaming Dragon Clan said, I heard that a saintess with an extremely pure bloodline has recently appeared in the Phoenix Clan. She's infinitely close to the Phoenix Clan's ancestral bloodline. If any of you can bring this saintess back, you'll be a great contributor to the Dragon Clan. Murongyu frowned slightly. He was a little unhappy. Although the expert from the Flaming Dragon Clan didn't say who the saintess of the Phoenix Clan was, Murongyu felt that the saintess had to be Zhao Jiqing. Zhao Jiqing was his woman. Not to mention touching her. He couldn't even think about it. He was following orders to woo a woman. Moreover, he would be rewarded if he succeeded. Instantly, the experts from the Dragon Clan became excited. They couldn't wait to appear in the Phoenix Clan and take all the women of the Phoenix Clan. Then, Murongyu and the others were brought into the city governor's mansion. Then, they appeared in the backyard of the city governor's mansion. So many experts. As soon as Murongyu entered the backyard, he felt that he was locked on by an enormous divine consciousness. As long as there was anything wrong with him, the divine consciousness would attack him immediately. And those hidden in the backyard would also make a move at the first moment. An enormous pressure instantly enveloped Murongyu and the others. In fact, some of the weaker true dragons even began to tremble under the immense pressure. There are at least 1,000 experts at the Chaotic Ancestor Saint level. Some of them must have reached the Chaotic Ancestor Saint level. Murongyu was shocked as he sensed the experts in the dark. This is definitely the Dragon Clan's passageway to the Holy World. It's actually hidden in the city governor's mansion. If I hadn't joined the Abyss Dragon Clan, I wouldn't have known about this passageway. Moreover, if it weren't for this opportunity, I wouldn't have been able to sneak in even if I knew about the passageway. Murongyu thought to himself. However, his eyes were already sizing up the place. As far as the eye could see, it was just an ordinary backyard. There was nothing special about it. However, Murongyu knew that this was just a facade. Layers upon layers of void enveloped the backyard, and there were hundreds of millions of layers of void, one after another. It was endless. Murongyu sensed that the experts were hidden in these layers of space, guarding the passageway. If we came in through this passageway, I'm afraid we would be killed by these true dragon experts before we could even react. While Murongyu and the others were still in shock, the peerless expert from the Abyss Dragon family had already walked forward. At this moment, the supreme pressure that enveloped Murongyu and the others disappeared. However, Murongyu still felt the sharp gazes of those experts in the dark. Rumble after a dull bang. A spatial passageway appeared above Murongyu and the others. An aura that was different from the Dragon Clan's world came over. Murongyu's spirit was lifted. He felt that it was the aura of the Holy World. We can finally leave the Dragon Clan's world. Murongyu was a little excited. He took a step forward and charged into the spatial passageway. After what seemed like an instant or 10,000 years, Murongyu finally landed on solid ground again. Holy World, I'm back. Breathing in the fresh air of the Holy World, Murongyu almost wanted to roar out loud. However, in order to not expose his identity, he suppressed the impulse in his heart. Is this the Holy World? It doesn't seem as good as the Dragon Clan's world. An undead stage, true dragon frowned. Although the Heaven-Earth Yuan Qi here is not weak, it's not suitable for us. Another true dragon expert said, other than the experts of the 10 great clans, the other true dragons who entered the Holy World for the first time were more or less not used to it. The Heaven-Earth Yuan Qi in the Holy World was the same, but it was very different from the Dragon Clan's world. In the Dragon Clan's world, every strand of Heaven-Earth Yuan Qi contained the aura of the Dragon Clan. This aura was more suitable for true dragons to devour. However, the Heaven-Earth Yuan Qi in the Holy World did not contain the aura of the Dragon Clan, so the effects of their cultivation were slightly weaker. Their cultivation speed was slightly slower as well. They had all just come out of the Dragon Clan's world, so they definitely would not be used to it. Murong-Yu hurriedly acted like he was not used to it after noticing everyone's reaction. He did not want to give himself away, even though he could leave right now. However, if he left now, he would not be able to see Zhao Jiqing. Elder, when are we going back? Are we going to enter from here as well? A saint ruler from the Abyssal Dragon Clan asked an elder of the clan. The elder of the Abyssal Dragon Clan shook his head slightly. The entrance to our Dragon Clan's world is not fixed. It changes at all times. Although we've appeared here, the entrance is no longer here. If you want to go back, you need to use special methods to find the entrance and open it. As a result, it's best if you don't leave the group. Otherwise, you can only stay in the Holy World in the future. Murong-Yu frowned slightly. He originally planned on entering the Dragon Clan's world from here, but it seemed like that was impossible now. If I want to enter the Dragon Clan's world in the future, I can only go through the immortal tomb of the cultivation world. However, it'll be rather troublesome to come out, Murong-Yu thought. He had already taken to the air and flew towards the Phoenix Clan. Chapter 15:13. In the blink of an eye, aside from Murong-Yu, everyone else had transformed into their true forms. Instantly, waves of terrifying pressure spread out, shaking heaven and earth and intimidating the myriad worlds. True dragon bodies that were 5 million miles long or more traversed the void. It was a spectacular sight. Deafening dragon roars continued to spread out, shattering the sky. Boom, boom, boom. Without any hesitation, these true dragon experts who had transformed into their original forms attacked. They launched their most violent attacks on the people around them. Out of 100,000 people, only 1,000 could stay and join the Abyss Dragon family. As for the others, unless they admitted defeat, they would be killed here. Therefore, in order to join the Abyss Dragon family, they gave it their all. At this moment, only Murong remained in his human form. In front of the incomparably gigantic true dragons, Murong-Yu, a human, appeared very small. Naturally, he became the first target of the countless true dragon experts' attacks. In the blink of an eye, Murong-Yu saw a myriad of terrifying energies enveloping him from all directions. They locked onto him and ruthlessly bombarded him. Tens of thousands of true dragons attacked at the same time. Of course, their main target was Murong-Yu, but they also included the other true dragons. Roar! In order to avoid suspicion, Murong-Yu didn't hesitate to let out an earth-shattering dragon's roar. Then, he transformed into his true body. A golden dragon that was 2 million miles long. Rays of golden holy light burst out of Murong-Yu's body and shot into the sky. Wherever it passed, large pieces of the void would shatter. Roar! Murong-Yu let out a furious roar, and his enormous true dragon body shook violently. Then, an enormous force surged out of his body like a torrent, violently meeting the terrifying forces that bombarded him. Rumble! As soon as the attacks came into contact, they were all shattered. Murong-Yu's strength was comparable to that of an ancestor sage. Although the attacks of these holy kings were powerful, the gap between them and an ancestor sage was too great. They couldn't even withstand a single blow. Smack! After shattering the attacks, Murong-Yu's enormous golden dragon tail whipped fiercely in the sky. After a loud explosion, a true dragon that was 5 million miles long let out a sorrowful cry, and its entire body was blown up into a cloud of blood mist. Murong-Yu's dragon tail only paused for a moment, then bravely charged forward and whipped a second holy king dragon to death. Whoosh! After killing 2 holy king dragons in an instant, Murong-Yu's foreclaws moved. They turned into a streak of light and swept across the void. Then there were 4 miserable screams. Four true dragons didn't even have the strength to resist before Murong Yu's claws exploded. The difference between an ordinary Saint King and an expert of the Ancestor Saint realm was just that great. He couldn't even withstand a single blow. Die, brat. At this moment, a true dragon that was close to 2 million miles long suddenly shuttled through the void, roaring halfway. Then he spat out a mouthful of incomparably violent dragon breath, swiftly and violently strangling Murong Yu. Very good. Hearing that familiar voice, Murong Yu sneered inwardly. That guy was the true dragon that wanted the ancestral artifact from Murong Yu previously. Sure enough, this fellow had targeted Murong Yu right from the start. He was just a peak holy king. Murong Yu didn't put him in his eyes at all. With a thought, Murong Yu's claws clenched into a fist and fiercely punched out. Boom! After an earth-shattering explosion, the dragon breath that the other party spat out was directly blown apart. And Murong Yu took a step forward, passing through billions of space-time and directly appearing in front of the other party. Eat my fist! Murong Yu roared, his fist shaking the heavens and shattering the heavens. Before the other party could react, it had already ruthlessly bombarded his head. Bang! After an earth-shattering explosion, the head of this true dragon that had reached the peak Holy King realm was directly blown apart. Even his soul couldn't escape and was directly crushed by Murong Yu. After all, Murong Yu wasn't a true dragon, and he had to enter the top 3. Therefore, he didn't have any psychological burden when killing a true dragon. Chi! As the true dragon's corpse fell down, Murong Yu used his fingers like a sword and directly dug out the true dragon's storage ring, then put it into the Hichu Luo Shu. This guy had many ancestral artifacts in his storage ring. Seeing that the true dragon was easily killed, the people around Murong Yu couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. Then, they involuntarily retreated, far away from Murong Yu. There was no helping it. This guy was too strong. Who would dare to provoke him? Wouldn't that be courting death? And the other true dragons that had handed over their ancestral artifacts to that true dragon were all very depressed. This guy had even guaranteed that they would enter the top 1,000, but now it was all gone. After losing an ancestral artifact, they still had to fight on their own. And they might not even be able to enter the top 1,000. No one's coming. After killing the true dragon with the strength of a peak holy king, Murong Yu glanced at the people around him. But he found that there were no more true dragons around him, and no one dared to attack him. Even the true dragons that were fighting not far away from him were careful, afraid that their power would bombard Murong Yu and then provoke Murong Yu into a rage and slash down with his claws. Since no one came to provoke him, Murong Yu was also happy to be idle. He just stood in the same place, coldly watching the intense battle. The battle became more and more intense. Almost every moment, a true dragon died or admitted defeat. Gradually, the original 100,000 true dragons were reduced to 10,000, then 5,000, and finally, the battle stopped when there were only 1,000 people left. These 1,000 people could join the Abyss Dragon family and become the disciples of the Abyss Dragon family. And if they wanted to get a place to train in the Holy World, they had to be in the top 3. I give up the fight for the top 3. I give up too. After knowing that they had entered the top 1,000, there were true dragon experts who gave up. They were strong, but there were many people who were stronger than them. Although training in the Holy World was full of temptation, their goal was to join the Abyss Dragon family. It didn't matter if they couldn't get out. If they continued to fight, it was very likely that they would be killed. So, in a short time, more than 700 people gave up the fight, and the remaining 200 people were all full of confidence. Soon, the battle began. The battle was more intense than before. However, this time, there were already experts from the Abyss Dragon family involved in the battle. It was inevitable to be seriously injured, but no one died. After all, these were all disciples of the Abyss Dragon family. The Abyss Dragon family didn't want all of them to be killed. Perhaps there would be a primal chaos ancestor sane among these people in the future. No force would complain about having too many primal chaos ancestor saints. You're strong, but you're no match for me. Admit defeat. Murong, you stood in the sky and coldly watched the battle between the true dragons. At this moment, a true dragon that was 2 million kilometers long strode over and stood before him, looking at him disdainfully. Murong, you smiled and then moved. His huge dragon tail lashed out fiercely, causing billions of space-times to explode. Before the true dragon expert could react, he had already lashed out viciously at him. Bang! The true dragon expert didn't know what happened at all and felt a sharp pain in his body. Then, his vision turned black and he lost consciousness. Murong, you didn't kill him. You just knocked him out. Murong, you didn't want to be excluded from the top 3 by the Abyss Dragon family, because he killed a true dragon expert. Kill him. Seeing how ferocious Murong Yu was, the true dragon experts around him looked at each other and roared in unison. They attacked Murong Yu at the same time. Murong Yu's existence was a huge threat to them. Only by joining hands and eliminating Murong Yu would they have a chance of entering the top 3. You overestimate yourselves. Murong Yu sneered. Instead of retreating, he advanced, and his huge body crashed into the true dragon experts. Bang! 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 Murong Yu's strength had reached the primal chaos ancestor, Saint Realm. Naturally, his speed was much faster than ordinary Saint Kings. With one step, he crossed billions of space-time and appeared in front of the true dragon experts. Then, Murong Yu continued to charge forward and crashed into them. Thus, the true dragon experts suffered tragedy. Although their attacks landed on Murong Yu, they didn't pose any threat to Murong Yu. On the contrary, their bodies were smashed into pieces and they were sent flying with blood spurting out of their mouths. Ferocious. However, the stronger Murong Yu was, the more everyone felt a common enemy. More and more true dragon experts charged over. You overestimate yourselves. Since that's the case, I'll grant you your wish. Murong Yu roared and took the initiative to attack. Boom! 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 Although these true dragon experts were powerful, some of them had even reached the primal chaos ancestor Saint Realm. But in front of Murong Yu, they couldn't even withstand a single blow. With a few punches, Murong Yu took down the true dragon experts one by one. Moreover, Murong Yu didn't want to delay any longer. He took the initiative to attack. In a short while, everyone in the independent space was taken down by him. This bastard, he's definitely not a Saint King, but a primal chaos ancestor saint. Looking at the many true dragon experts who had fallen on the ground of the independent space, some of the true dragons growled in displeasure. A Saint King definitely doesn't have such strength. This bastard must have suppressed his cultivation level. He should be participating in the battle between the primal chaos ancestor saints, not torturing us here. Each of the true dragon experts gnashed their teeth at Murong Yu, feeling extremely displeased in their hearts. However, they also knew that since the Abyss Dragon family didn't interfere, Murong Yu was really just a Saint King. Longrong Mu is first. At this moment, the Abyss Dragon family announced the result. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.